It looked nothing like the buns I remembered, but what shocked me was that when I stared at it, some strange text appeared in the air, describing the bun's ingredients. It wasn't a hallucination. I saw it again with a chip bowl. It seemed I had some kind of ability now to see descriptions of objects. I didn't fully understand it yet, but it felt important. Before I could think more, hunger reminded me of what mattered now. I split the bun and gave half back to Little Yin. She insisted I eat it all, but I convinced her to share. It was tough, dry, and bland, but it filled my stomach just enough to feel alive again. In this strange, hard world, all I had was her, and now, maybe, a small ability that could help us survive. I sat on a stone stump in our small yard while Little Yin chased a butterfly. In my hands was a red-flowered plant that glowed faintly white in my vision. 2 lines of text hovered above it, telling me it was cow bone grass and could help with bone injuries. Ever since I woke up in this new world, I've noticed this strange ability. When I focus on something, words appear telling me what it is and what it does. It's like a game interface from my old life, only very real now. I've figured out a few things. Gray glowing items show only 1 line of info, while white ones like this plant reveal more. Maybe the glow shows how useful or special the object is. Out of curiosity, I looked at Little Yin. After a while, a white glow appeared too. The text called her a pitiful human cub and said she was a bit malnourished. My heart sank. She's just a child, and it's clear we're both barely surviving. I showed her the cow bone grass and asked if she knew it. She didn't, but said Grandpa Zhang's ox liked to eat it. Then she mentioned Grandpa Chun, the village doctor, who loves plants and often brews bitter medicine. That reminded me he had tried to help me when I was sick. Maybe it was his bitter medicine that gave me the warmth I needed to survive. Thinking about everything, I felt grateful. People like Grandpa Zhang and Grandpa Chen had helped Little Yin while I was unconscious. Without them, we might not have made it. But gratitude couldn't fill empty stomachs. We had no food, no money, and our home was nearly bare. Most of the land had been sold. Planting crops wouldn't help us now. So I searched the old house and found a thick metal needle and some hemp thread. I bent the needle into a hook, made a line, and tied it to a bamboo rod. With some dry wood as a float, I built a simple fishing rod. It wasn't much, but maybe it would be enough to get us through another day. After finishing the fishing rod, I felt a bit proud. In my old life, I used to enjoy fishing as a hobby, and now that skill might actually help me and Little Yin survive. I even managed to find bait, some earthworms in a cool corner of the yard. Strangely, even those glowed in my vision with odd descriptions, but I ignored them. We weren't trying to study medicine, we just needed to eat. Once I packed everything, rod, bait, an old bucket, we set off toward the river. We hadn't gone far when Aunt Wang spotted us. She was surprised I was walking again. Apparently, everyone had thought I was going to die. Even she had been preparing herself for the idea of someone else raising Little Yin. It was strange. In the original memories, Aunt Wang didn't seem so warm, but she genuinely looked relieved. She reminded me that Little Yin had no one else. It made me realize again how much responsibility I now had. I promised her I'd look after my sister. She then noticed our fishing gear and offered us food instead, thinking we were too hungry to wait. It was kind of her, but I politely declined. We couldn't depend on others forever. I had to find a way to support us, no matter how small. We promised not to go into the river, just fish from the shore. She reluctantly let us go, but rushed off to tell her husband the news. I guess he had plans to adopt Little Yin if I didn't make it. As we continued, more villagers saw me and reacted with the same shock. Little Yin proudly told everyone I recovered thanks to Grandpa Chen's medicine. They praised the old doctor and were happy I survived. When they heard I was going fishing, most doubted it would work. People in the village had tried before and gave up, too little reward for too much time. But we had no choice. No fields, no food, and nothing to lose. Interestingly, a few older kids grew curious and began following us, wanting to see if I could really catch a fish. I arrived at the river just outside the village, with Little Yin and a group of curious kids trailing behind me. The river wasn't wide, but it was deep enough to be dangerous, especially for children. I made sure to warn them all to stay back and not get close to the edge. They listened. After all, I was older, and in their eyes, almost an adult. While Little Yin watched the bucket, I started looking for a good fishing spot. In my past life, I had loved fishing and learned that picking the right place mattered more than anything. I walked along the riverbank, watching the water, remembering everything I'd learned. Eventually, I found a bend in the river where the flow was calm and the plants thick. It looked promising. Just as I was about to leave and grab my rod, I saw a gray glow in my vision and a line of text appeared. Ordinary fishing spot, where the small fish gather. My strange ability confirmed what I already guessed. I felt proud. My skill still worked in this new world. That discovery gave me an idea. I kept walking, using my ability to check the water. I found 2 more spots. One of them gave off a white light instead of gray. Its description hinted that big fish liked it because wild fruits fell there. It was called a primary fishing point. That confirmed something I'd been guessing. Gray meant common, white meant better. There were likely even higher levels I hadn't seen yet. Still, I decided to fish at the ordinary spot first. I'd made my rod with limited materials. If I tried for something too big and broke the line or lost the hook, I wouldn't be able to fish at all. When I got back, the kids were still waiting patiently. I liked that. I let them help carry the bucket and led them to the fishing spot. I asked the oldest boy, Ahu, to keep the others in line. Then I stepped down to the river, fishing rod in hand, ready to try my luck. When I reached the fishing spot, I flattened the grass and set up everything, starting with opening the bamboo container filled with earthworms. The kids behind me were fascinated. They'd seen earthworms before, but never imagined they could be used for fishing. I threaded one onto the hook and cast it into the river, aiming right at the gray swirl I had seen with my strange ability. Everyone held their breath as the float twitched on the water. When it finally dipped sharply, I pulled back and caught a small white fish on the first try. The kids were amazed, cheering loudly. Even little Yin jumped around, thrilled. I felt a bit proud. My fishing skills hadn't faded after all. I kept fishing, casting again and again. To the kids' astonishment, I pulled up fish after fish, whitefish, yellow-boned fish, even some shrimp. The bamboo rod worked better than I expected. Soon, the wooden bucket beside me was filling up fast. When I finally checked the bait container, there were only a few worms left. The bites had slowed too, so I figured it was time to stop. I tossed the remaining bait into the river and packed up. The bucket was heavy, probably 7 or 8 kilos of fish. The kids swarmed around me in awe. I told them we'd share the catch, which got them even more excited. They helped carry the bucket, taking turns so no one was left out. Together, we headed back to the village. As we walked, the kids shouting caught the attention of the villagers. When they saw the full bucket, everyone was stunned. No one expected me to come back with such a big haul. People who had tried fishing before couldn't believe it. Some were so curious they followed me home, wanting to know how I did it. I didn't mind. It felt good to come back not empty-handed, but with enough to eat, share, and maybe earn a little respect. After Lu Qing got home, faced with the eager eyes of the little rascals, he didn't dawdle and started distributing the fish right away. He picked 2 banana leaves from behind the small courtyard and cut them into pieces. He gave each little rascal a handful of fish no more than half a pound each, roughly. Although it wasn't much, the kids were thrilled. Having received the fish, each of them ran home gleefully as if they had obtained some treasure. Seeing that Lu Qing had finished distributing the fish, some villagers approached him. Lu Qing, how did you fish for these? How did you catch so many all at once? It was just luck, Lu Qing smiled. Perhaps it's because the bait I used is particularly attractive to the fish. What bait did you use? Just the common earthworm from the fields. Lu Qing didn't keep it a secret and told the truth. After all, even if he didn't say it, it wouldn't take long for people in the village to find out, especially since there were a bunch of little rascals watching him fish. If that was the case, it was better to be upfront about it rather than having others accuse him of being stingy. Earthworms, can you actually use those for fishing? The villagers were amazed. Of course, and the fish really liked them. Lu Qing was not surprised that the villagers didn't know earthworms could be used for fishing. From the original owner's memories, he speculated that he was now in a world similar to ancient China. In such an old and feudal era, transportation was inconvenient, and information was scarce. People tended to be cautious and conservative towards new things and were not likely to try them easily. What is common knowledge in one place might become a rarity in another. It was normal that no one in the village excelled at fishing, so they didn't know that fish liked earthworms. I never knew fish liked to eat earthworms. No wonder everyone had little success fishing in the past. It was because we used the wrong bait, a villager exclaimed. Lu Qing, did your dad tell you this method? Lu Qing hesitated for a moment then nodded. My dad mentioned it once, and I just remembered it. Today, little Yin kept saying she was hungry, and we had nothing to eat at home, so I thought of this method and decided to give it a try. I didn't expect to actually catch fish. Hearing this, that villager paused and then looked at little Yin. The little one was squatting by the bucket watching the fish, felt the villager's gaze, raised her head, and immediately flashed him a big smile. The villager's heart softened immediately, and he looked at the frail Lu Qing with pity. So, what will you do next? You can't just eat fish all the time, can you? How could your stomach handle that? I was thinking of discussing this with a few uncles, Lu Qing said earnestly. The uncles know my family's current situation. We literally have no rice at home, so I wanted to borrow some grain and cooking essentials from them. After a few days, when I find some work, I will definitely return it double. What are you talking about? Do you think the uncles are the kind to kick you while you're down? We're all from the same village. It's only right to support each other. It's just a bit of grain. Uncle Sean will bring some to you right away. Moved, the villager spoke loudly. Having said this, the other villagers naturally felt compelled to offer their help too. Right, it's just a bit of grain. I'll go and get some for you right now. I bought extra salt at the market at the beginning of the month. I can spare some for you. It's just oil. We still have plenty at home. I'll go and get some for you in a bit. The villagers were thumping their chests in a generous manner. Lu Qing was overjoyed. Thank you so much, uncles. Lu Qing, hang on a minute. I'll go home and bring you some grain. Uncle Sean headed out immediately, and several other villagers also made their way home. Before long, they all gathered in Lu Qing's courtyard. Here, take this half bag of rice for you and little Yin to eat first. If you run out, ask Uncle Sean for more. Lu Qing, this half jar of lard should last you a while, right? Here's half a bamboo tube of salt for you to use. I've got a few flatbreads my wife baked this morning. They'll keep for a while. Eating one can stave off hunger for a long time. Will that be enough? Seeing the items the villagers brought, Lu Qing was inexplicably grateful. He bowed repeatedly. That's enough. That's enough. Thank you, uncles. After speaking, he scooped up several handfuls of small fish from the barrel and divided them into portions. With this, most of the fish in the wooden barrel were gone in an instant. This bit of fish, uncles, take it back and give it a taste. Uncle Sean and the others waved their hands hurriedly. How can we do that? You just went through the effort to catch them. Keep them for yourself and little Yin. I can't eat all these fish by myself. And now that the weather is hot, the fish won't keep for long. Without chickens or ducks at home, the fish would just go bad. Just consider it helping me out so they don't go to waste. With no further discussion, Lu Qing stuffed the fish wrapped in leaves into the villagers' hands. Well, okay then, we won't stand on ceremony. The villagers had initially felt a pang of regret for giving away some of their stored grain, but having received the fish, they immediately felt much better. After seeing the uncles off, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief. He felt somewhat fortunate. Thank goodness the people in the village were simple and honest. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare ask for food so freely. With the food they now had, he and little Yin wouldn't have to worry about what to eat for the next 10 days or so. Having this buffer period, he could also properly explore ways to survive in this world. Brother, this pancake smells so good. Lu Qing was deep in thought when he suddenly heard little Yan's comment. Looking down, he saw the little one squatting on the ground, drooling over the flatbread one of the villagers had brought. He walked over, tore a small piece of the pancake, and placed it in little Yan's hand. Be good, little Yin. Eat this piece of pancake. Your brother will cook some rice now. Okay, little Yin understands. Little Yin obediently nodded, took the pancake, and happily started nibbling on it. Having calmed the little one, Lu Qing also started to get busy in the kitchen. He began by rinsing rice to steam it, then caught about half a pound of small fish, gutted and cleaned them. When he was ready to fry the fish, Lu Qing realized a problem. There was no pot in the kitchen to cook with. Recalling for a moment, he remembered. The house did have an iron pot before, but it had been sold by the previous occupant in exchange for food. So now, the house only had a clay pot for cooking rice, but no pot for cooking meals. Sighing, Lu Qing had no choice but to find an alternative, fetching a fairly flat thin slab of stone from outside the yard, cleaning it thoroughly, and then slowly heating it over the fire. Once the stone slab was searing hot, Lu Qing carefully scooped a small spoonful of solidified lard from a clay jar brought by one of the villagers. The lard sizzled upon touching the hot stone slab, quickly melting down, instantly releasing a fragrant aroma of oil. Seeing that the oil was hot, Lu Qing started to carefully clip each small fish onto it and began to fry them slowly. Actually, it would have been better to add a little salt to the oil before frying, as that would prevent the fish from sticking to the bottom. But Lu Qing had noticed that the salt recently brought by that uncle had rather coarse grains and wasn't suitable for frying fish directly. Carefully controlling the heat, Lu Qing slowly fried the fish. The spreading aroma attracted little Yin, who had already finished her pancake, and she came over to sit, staring intently at the fish on the stone slab. Seeing her like this, Lu Qing's heart ached. He ruffled the little guy's hair. "Little Yin, just wait a bit longer. You'll be able to eat soon." "Okay." Little Yin obediently nodded. "Brother, the fishy fish smells so good. If it smells good, then eat a lot later." Brother caught so many fish today, enough for little Yin to have her fill. Once the rice in the clay pot was cooked, Lu Qing had also mostly finished frying the fish. He picked them up and placed them in a bowl. Then he poured some salt water over them. Just like that, a simple salt water fried fish was ready. Lu Qing served 2 bowls of rice and set them on the table. "Little Yin, it's time to eat." "I'm here, brother." The little guy had already been waiting at the dining table. Lu Qing added a small stool to the chair and then lifted little Yin onto it so she could reach her bowl. He then picked out a few small fish with little bones for her bowl. "Go ahead and eat, you little glutton. Remember to spit out the bones. Don't get pricked by them." "I know, brother." The little one had been so eager to eat that she immediately picked up a small fried fish and put it in her mouth, chewing quickly like a hamster. Lucky for her, Lu Qing had chosen fish with few bones, or else she would have definitely been pricked. After swallowing a small fish, little Yan's eyes suddenly widened. "Brother, this fish is so delicious, even better than what mother used to make." Upon hearing this, Lu Qing felt not joy but a wave of sadness instead. The fish was cooked with just a little oil and salt water, and even to save, he had dared not add more oil while frying. How delicious could such a fried fish be? In times of hunger, one finds everything tasty. Little Yin must have experienced much hunger during this time to find such a plain dish of saltwater fried fish to be such an exquisite delight. However, Lu Qing didn't show his feelings and just smiled. "Good to hear it's tasty. Eat more, little Yin." "MHM, MHM." The little one shoveled a big mouthful of rice and puffed out her cheeks, unable to speak, just nodding. Lu Qing laughed and also picked up a fish to eat. Having eaten a fish, he raised his eyebrows. The fish wasn't as bad as he had imagined. Perhaps it was because the ancient environment was unpolluted that the river fish were especially fine. Therefore, although modestly seasoned, the flesh of the small fried fish was fresh and delicious, with a unique flavor. Both siblings were so hungry that their eating speed couldn't possibly be slow. Soon, the rice in the clay pot and the bowl of small fried fish were all devoured by them. Of course, most of it ended up in Lu Qing's belly. No matter how hungry little Yin was, she was just a 6 or 7-year-old child with a limited appetite. And Lu Qing deliberately controlled it a bit to prevent her from eating too much at once and hurting her stomach. "Brother, little Yin is full." The little one put down her bowl, patted her belly, and wore a face full of satisfaction. Little Yin hadn't felt so full in a long time. "Once you're full, take a rest and don't run around. Elder brother will go wash the dishes first." Lu Qing instructed, then began to tidy up the bowls and chopsticks. "Little Yin will help elder brother." The little one jumped off the stool. "No need, just sit here and rest." Lu Qing refused. So little Yin could only obediently sit on the stool and watch as Lu Qing bustled about. Children are prone to sleepiness. By the time Lu Qing had put everything away and came out, the little one's head was already nodding off. Gently picked up the little one and walked toward the room. "Elder brother, little Yin wants to go fishing with you again next time. The fish was delicious." Just as Lu Qing put little Yin down on the bed, the little one mumbled sleepily, "Okay, next time we fish, elder brother will take you with him." Lu Qing lovingly covered the little one with a patched quilt and said softly. It seemed as if she had heard her elder brother's promise. Little Yin didn't speak again and fell soundly asleep. After making sure the little one was asleep, Lu Qing quietly left the room and sat down on a simple lounge chair in the living room, feeling a wave of comfort. He had been busy today as well, his body just having recovered and still quite weak. Despite the hunger, he had done so much work, both fishing and cooking. To say he wasn't tired would be a lie. Now, lying on the lounge chair, he felt much more comfortable. He even felt a wave of sleepiness coming on. However, he couldn't sleep yet. There was still some thinking he needed to do. After a half-day of activities and interactions with the villagers, as well as the memories in his mind, Lu Qing had basically deduced what kind of environment he was in now. First, without a doubt, he was in a world similar to ancient China. Moreover, it was a time when the productivity levels were rather low. This could be seen from the fact that an iron pot could be considered a rarity. However, his knowledge was limited to this. There was a lot more information that Lu Qing couldn't confirm. For instance, the social structure of this world, the distribution of power, who the rulers were, he was clueless. He only knew that this world seemed to lack government institutions like a court or an official's office. At least in the original host's memory, there was no such concept. Of course, this wasn't absolute. After all, the original host was nothing more than a naive young man who had grown up without ever leaving the village. How big the outside world was, he had never considered. So how could he possess those concepts? Nevertheless, although it was uncertain whether there were courts or official offices, what was certain was that there were towns. The people in the village would go to the market towns to buy certain living supplies they needed. Items like salt and iron were normally only available in towns. And in these towns, the most powerful seemed to be the city lord. Unfortunately, although the original host was 15 years old, he had never been to the town, which prevented Lu Qing from knowing what the towns were really like. It seems that if I get the chance, I should make a trip to the town, Lu Qing murmured softly to himself. Only with a sufficient understanding of this world would he be able to decide which path to take in the future. Of course, thinking about this was still a bit far off for now. The most pressing matter was to find a way to provide for himself and little Yen. After all, today he had owed a lot of favors to the villagers, and these needed to be repaid. And currently, his greatest reliance was undoubtedly the superpower he possessed. What could his superpower do? Lu Qing pondered quietly. Suddenly, a name floated into his mind. Lu Qing's mind conjured up the image of a kindly and lean elder. Old Dr. Chen. This elder doctor was the sole doctor serving several nearby villages. He was highly skilled in medicine. Though not a miracle worker, he could cure common ailments like headaches, fevers, bruises, and colds almost without fail. Therefore, he was deeply respected by the villagers nearby. It was said that even wealthy families in the town often requested his medical services. Such a figure undoubtedly held a special status in the village. Almost no villager dared to disrespect him. Previously, the original Lu Qing, a naive young boy with limited vision, had been indifferent to many things. However, after giving it some thought, Lu Qing discovered some anomalies. For instance, according to his memories, old Dr. Chen should have been quite old, yet he maintained a robust health and often ventured alone into the mountains to gather herbs. These were not the developed tourist spots from his past life, but genuine, rugged mountains and primitive forests. They were filled with venomous insects and snakes, and fierce animals, their numbers unknown, making them extremely dangerous. Even experienced hunters did not dare to venture too deeply into these woods. For an old man like old Dr. Chen to enter and leave these places safely was truly unusual. Lu Qing was very curious about his abilities. It would be wonderful if he could learn even a fraction of old Dr. Chen's medical skills. His superpower allowed him to see the basic information of all things. When it came to identifying herbs, it was foolproof. It perfectly complemented medical skills. If he could learn some of old Dr. Chen's skills, it would provide some security for his and little Yan's future. However, how could he learn from old Dr. Chen? As Lu Qing pondered this, his eyelids began to droop uncontrollably. His body was weak, and he couldn't resist the overwhelming fatigue. Eventually, before falling asleep, Lu Qing couldn't think of any good methods. Unexpectedly, before he could figure out a way to approach old Dr. Chen came to him. Lying on a reclining chair, Lu Qing fell asleep. In his drowsy state, he seemed to hear someone talking, followed by the sensation of someone grabbing his hand. He woke up abruptly. Lu Qing, you're awake. Old Dr. Chen is treating you. A loud voice rang out. Lu Qing recognized the voice. It seemed to be that of old Zhang from next door, which initially relieved him. Then, he snapped back to full awareness and opened his eyes. Old Dr. Chen? Turning his head, he saw two elders, one standing and the other sitting. The seated one, lean and kindly faced, could only be old Dr. Chen. Don't move. Let me take your pulse first. Seeing Lu Qing about to get up, old Dr. Chen spoke gently. Lu Qing immediately froze. That's when he realized that old Dr. Chen's hand was on his wrist. No wonder he felt someone grabbing his hand in his daze. It turned out old Dr. Chen was taking his pulse. Seeing old Dr. Chen close his eyes to concentrate on the pulse, Lu Qing didn't dare to move and continued to lie obediently on the reclining chair. Knowing that the pulse taking wouldn't be over quickly, Lu Qing couldn't help but scrutinize this somewhat mysterious old Dr. Chen. His first impression was that the elder doctor seemed gentler than he remembered, his lean figure exuding an almost celestial composure. It was instantly reassuring to behold. But at this moment, his expression was serious, his brows furrowed as if encountering some difficulty. Lu Qing quietly observed old Dr. Chen for a while, and suddenly he saw a faint red light emerge around the elder. Qin Song Qing, skilled in medicine, kind-hearted, respected, a fine elder physician. Cultivation, achieved in Qi cultivation, postnatal internal realm. What is this? Lu Qing's eyes suddenly widened, not only because of the faint red light emanating from the elder doctor's body, but even more so because of the description in the text that followed. Since regaining consciousness, Lu Qing had gradually deciphered some patterns in his superpower. Ordinary objects, when examined with his superpower, typically showed a gray light. More special items, like medicinal herbs, would display a white light. But humans, without exception, all showed white light at least. That was the case with everyone he met in the village. However, the strength of the white light varied. Adults showed the strongest, followed by adolescents, and the elderly showed the least. Lu Qing speculated that this might be related to a person's vigor or life energy. After all, generally speaking, adults have the most energy, while the elderly have the least. But Elder Dr. Chen's presence overturned his understanding. What appeared was a red light, something he had never seen before. More importantly was the content of the text that popped up afterward. Cultivation? Successful Qi cultivation? Postnatal internal realm? What did this mean? Could it be that the world he was in was not what he thought, similar to the ancient world of Huaxia country, but a more mysterious world where cultivation was possible? Lu Qing's heart was disrupted by this sudden change. Just as he wanted to continue observing and gain more information from the Elder Doctor Chen suddenly opened his eyes. Seeing Lu Qing's flustered and shocked expression, Elder Dr. Chen frowned for a moment, then his face relaxed. He said gently, "Don't be afraid. I was merely taking your pulse." It was a misunderstanding. He thought his serious demeanor while taking the pulse had frightened Lu Qing. Seizing the opportunity to compose himself, Lu Qing asked somewhat anxiously, "Grandpa Chen, how's my illness? Is it all better now?" Beside them, old Master Zhang also looked expectantly at Elder Dr. Chen. Elder Dr. Chen pondered for a moment and said, "Not bad. Your illness has indeed recovered. Although you are still a bit weak, proper recuperation should render you almost completely unhindered." "Really? That's wonderful. Lu Qing, you should thank Elder Dr. Chen quickly. If it wasn't for the medicine he prescribed, you might not have woken up at all," exclaimed old Master Zhang joyfully. "Thank you, Grandpa Chen." Lu Qing got up from the recliner and attempted to kneel and kowtow as a sign of gratitude. After all, the elder doctor indeed owed him a life-saving debt. If not for that bowl of medicinal soup, he might not have survived the period of memory integration. This alone was worth his deep respect. However, Elder Dr. Chen stopped Lu Qing. "There's no need for such formalities. Your awakening is also due to your own fortune. This old man merely provided a little help." Elder Dr. Chen's words were not out of modesty. In fact, he was still extraordinarily astonished. He had indeed visited when Lu Qing fell ill. At that time, Lu Qing was severely afflicted, his energy as fine as a thread, and his condition was critical, reduced to his last breath. Even if a real master of medicine had come, it would have likely been difficult to save him. Embodying the spirit of medical benevolence, he still prepared a prescription adding many precious ingredients. His aim was merely to fulfill his duty, then leave the rest to fate. Some of the ingredients he added were even reserved by nobles from the city. Because of this, he had to hurry to the mountains the next day to gather herbs to replenish what was used. He had thought that Lu Qing would not make it, but when he returned from gathering herbs, he heard from the villagers that Lu Qing's illness had improved. Not only could he get out of bed and walk, but he could even go to the river to catch fish. Astonished, he immediately wanted to check on him. Arriving outside the courtyard, he encountered old Master Zhang returning from working in the fields, so they entered the house together. Initially, he suspected the villagers had exaggerated. Now, having taken Lu Qing's pulse, he found there was no exaggeration in the villagers' words. Lu Qing's illness had genuinely completely healed. Aside from still being somewhat weak, The previous symptoms had miraculously disappeared. This left Elder Dr. Chen immensely surprised. Could it be that I misjudged yesterday? Looking at the confused face of Lu Qing, old Dr. Chen doubted his medical skills for the first time. But he quickly dismissed the thought from his mind. He still had confidence in his medical skills. Lu Qing was indeed critically ill yesterday. He couldn't have misdiagnosed that. As to why Lu Qing had recovered overnight, it could only be said that there must be another mystery. It was just a mystery he couldn't unravel. Old Dr. Chen pondered, but still couldn't figure it out. In the end, he could only attribute it to Lu Qing having an auspicious fate, his life not yet meant to end. He also sighed to himself that his medical skill was still not precise enough to unravel the many mysteries of the human body. If he possessed the abilities of an innate grandmaster, who could perceive the most minute details, perhaps he could have understood how Lu Qing recovered. Thinking this, old Dr. Chen looked at Lu Qing and suddenly said, "Lu Qing, although your condition has improved, your body is still somewhat weak. How about this? Starting from tomorrow, come to my place every 3 days. I'll give you a few acupuncture sessions to strengthen your foundation and nurture your vitality." Before Lu Qing could respond, Grandpa Zhang, who was next to him, was already overjoyed. "Lu Qing, aren't you going to thank old Dr. Chen? He rarely offers to give acupuncture to anyone." Lu Qing hesitated a moment, "But I currently have nothing of value at home. I'm afraid I can't afford the medical fee." "You don't need to pay," old Dr. Chen said. "Your recovery this time is somewhat peculiar, and there might still be some hidden dangers that I cannot diagnose. Giving you acupuncture will also help me confirm my medical theories. It's beneficial for me as well." Hearing old Dr. Chen put it that way, Lu Qing could only express his gratitude. Then, "Thank you very much, Grandpa Chen." It just so happened that he was also worried about not having the chance to get close to old Dr. Chen. Now, he had a reason. As for how his illness was cured, truthfully, even he himself wasn't clear. Perhaps it was due to the integration of memories that incidentally cured his illness. Or perhaps it was his superpower that healed him. Anyway, he didn't think old Dr. Chen would be able to diagnose it. Moreover, he didn't feel any malice from the elder doctor towards him, and with the superpower within him, he was quite confident. Given that, why wouldn't he be happy to have a skilled elder doctor help condition his body? Seeing that Lu Qing had agreed, old Dr. Chen also showed a smile. He had immersed himself in medical skill his whole life, and it was rare to encounter a case that he couldn't understand, which made him curious about Lu Qing's body. After all, helping Lu Qing condition his body was just a simple effort for him. If it could lead to some gains in his medical skills, he would be very pleased. "I'm going to head back now. Remember to come over for acupuncture tomorrow morning." After seeing Lu Qing, old Dr. Chen was ready to leave. The herbs he had gathered today still needed to be dried promptly, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to prepare them in time for an important person. "Grandpa Chen, Grandpa Zhang, wait a moment." Seeing the two elders about to leave, Lu Qing quickly got up, ran into the kitchen, and brought out 2 bowls of small fish. "Grandpa Chen, Grandpa Zhang, I caught these fish this morning. If you don't mind, please take some home to try." Grandpa Zhang looked at the 2 bowls of small fish. "When I was coming back, I heard people in the village talking about your fishing. Lu Qing, is this method of fishing with earthworms something your father left behind?" "Yes, it's something my father mentioned to me before." Lu Qing had become quite adept at using this excuse. Are you confused?" Grandpa Zhang was unexpectedly distressed. "Since it was a technique left by your father, you should have kept it a secret. How could you let everyone in the village know? If they'll go fishing and empty the river of fish, what will you and little Yin eat?" "It's fine, Grandpa Zhang. With me here, little Yin won't starve," Lu Qing said nonchalantly. Fishing wasn't such a simple matter. If knowing one bait was all it took to catch fish at will, there wouldn't have been so many airheads in his previous life. Moreover, he was well aware of nature's regenerative capabilities. Relying solely on wild fishing, it was impossible to deplete the river of its fish. But how could Grandpa Zhang know these things? Seeing Lu Qing's indifferent demeanor, he became a bit agitated but was helpless. In the end, all he could do was sigh. "You'll understand when you suffer the consequences." Beside them, old Dr. Chen did not express any opinions on the matter. These were trivial matters to him, not worth his concern. On the other hand, he was somewhat pleased with the fish Lu Qing had brought out. He certainly knew the current situation of the Lu family. This small fish was probably the only thing Lu Qing could offer. It might even be his and his sister's food for the next few days. Yet, he willingly offered it. This showed that Lu Qin was a grateful child. No one disliked such a youth. Therefore, old Dr. Chen did not refuse Lu Qing's gift. Even Grandpa Zhang, wanting Lu Qing to experience a bit of heartache, deliberately took another bowl of fish. After seeing the two elders out and watching them walk away, Lu Qing returned to his house. Once he was sure there was no one nearby, he let out. The events in the house seemed mundane, but his heart had been in his throat several times. On one hand, he feared revealing that he was not the original owner of this body. On the other hand, he was shocked by the information revealed by old Dr. Chen. Fortunately, the idea of soul fusion and reincarnation was too mysterious. Nobody would think in that direction. Plus, having the memories of the original owner, he deliberately disguised himself and managed to stabilize his emotions without raising suspicion. Having passed this ordeal, his identity had become even more secure. He believed that in a few days, even if his personality changed, no one would doubt that he wasn't the original Lu Qing. After all, it's normal for young people's characters to be inconsistent, and he had experienced the huge change of losing his parents and had walked through the gate of a change in character was more than justified. Thus, although the sudden visit by old Dr. Chen and Grandpa Zhang caught Lu Qing off guard, it had also presented him with an opportunity. The information revealed by old Dr. Chen made Lu Qing realize that his previous guesses about this world might have been wrong. He thought he was in a world similar to ancient China. He assumed that everyone in this world was just an ordinary person like him. However, just now, he had seen information beyond common sense on the elder doctor. Cultivation, chi cultivation, realm. These were things belonging to a world of martial heroes and mysteries, where beings could move incredibly and have extraordinary powers. Could it be that he had transgressed into such a world? Lu Qing's emotions suddenly became complicated. He felt apprehensive, confused, and also expectant. He suddenly realized that he had been reborn into a world possibly possessing extraordinary powers. Lu Qing's heart was both joyful and shocked. The joy stemmed from, as a Chinese person, an inexplicable longing for a life of chivalry and roaming the world with a sword. The shock was that, in a world where one could amass great power in oneself and give rise to powerful individuals, danger and the weak to suffer resentment. At present, he was a weakling incapable of trusting a chicken. If, one day, he carelessly encountered an evil person knowledgeable in cultivation, it's feared he could be easily annihilated. Thinking of this, Lu Qing couldn't help but feel a sense of danger. He needed to change some of his original ideas. Lu Qing again fell into deep thought, slowly mulling over his plans in his mind. The next morning, Lu Qing cooked a pot of river shrimp porridge and then woke little Yin, the siblings enjoying the porridge together. "Brother, the shrimp porridge tastes so good." The little one slurped noisily, looked up with her face still dabbed with a grain of porridge, and happily said to Lu Qing, "It's good you like it. Drink slowly and don't choke." Lu Qing reached out to remove the bit of porridge from her mouth. "Brother, are we going fishing today?" Little Yin asked. "We're not going fishing today. After we finish eating, we're going to Grandpa Chen's place." Now that their immediate food needs were met, Lu Qing wasn't planning to fish in the next few days. Also, the fish on yesterday's fishing spot had been significantly reduced by his efforts and would probably need some time to recover. As for the remaining 2 fishing spots, the rudimentary fishing rod might be challenging to manage. Before he could make a better fishing rod, Lu Qing didn't intend to fish at those 2 spots. There was no way around it. They were too poor. Every bit of resource was precious and couldn't afford his wastefulness. Going to Grandpa Chen's place? Little Yan's eyes lit up. The little one had been asleep all of yesterday and didn't know about the visit from Elder Dr. Chen and Elder Zhang. "MHM, do you want to go?" Lu Qing asked. Generally, kids are naturally scared of figures like doctors, and Lu Qing wasn't sure if little Yin felt the same. One of the little ones said earnestly, "Grandpa Chen is so nice. He cured brother's illness, and little Yin hasn't thanked him yet." Lu Qing smiled. "Right, let's go thank Grandpa Chen together." After finishing the porridge, Lu Qing locked the door and set out with little Yin. Elder Dr. Chen didn't reside in the village, but lived halfway up a small mountain behind the village. Walking on the road with little Yin, he saw from afar a solitary small courtyard faintly visible halfway up the mountain, looking quite picturesque. Upon reaching halfway up the mountain, Lu Qing saw a figure moving in front of the yard. He was about to speak when he suddenly closed his mouth. He also pulled on little Yin, gesturing her to keep silent, because he noticed that Elder Dr. Chen now didn't seem to be in a state to be disturbed. Elder Dr. Chin was practicing his boxing. Lu Qing didn't recognize the type. To him, it somewhat resembled the Tai Chi boxing practiced by the elderly in parks in his previous life. The moves were slow and gentle. However, after watching for a while, Lu Qing noted the differences. Though Elder Dr. Chin's moves seemed soft, each move seemed to carry a breeze and flowed naturally, quite a beautiful sight. Just as Lu Qing was getting somewhat captivated, suddenly, a row of text popped up in his field of vision. Discover cultivation technique. Do you wish to simulate? Lu Qing's pupils suddenly constricted. His superpower had such a function? He glanced at old Dr. Chun, who was still deeply immersed in his boxing, and Lu Qing forcefully calmed his wildly beating heart as he silently chose yes in his mind. Simulation initiated, current progress, 1%, 2%, 3%. Watching the progress bar silently increasing in his field of view, Lu Qing's heartbeat involuntarily quickened again. He hadn't expected that his superpower could simulate other people's cultivation techniques. Just yesterday, he had been frustrated about not being able to access the cultivation methods of this world. This was truly a case of finding a pillow when feeling sleepy. Lu Qing intently watched old Dr. Chin's movements while simultaneously keeping an eye on the simulation progress of the cultivation technique. 48%, 49%, 50%. When the cultivation technique simulation progress reached 50%, Lu Qing found it had stopped and the progress bar disappeared. Looking across, he saw that old Dr. Chin had already finished his boxing. Lu Qing inwardly lamented. If he had come a bit earlier, he might have been able to fully simulate old Dr. Chin's boxing method. Now, being stuck halfway was quite uncomfortable. However, Lu Qing just briefly regretted it before he adjusted his mindset. Being able to discover another function of his superpower during this visit was already a great gain. As for old Dr. Chin's cultivation technique, there would be plenty of time in the future. There was no need to rush. Old Dr. Chin finished his boxing session and had just turned to look at Lu Qing and his sister. In fact, he had known of the siblings' presence from the start. It was just that practicing in the morning was already a habit, so he hadn't stopped. Have you two eaten breakfast yet? Old Dr. Chin asked warmly. We have, Lu Qing respectfully replied. Little Yin stepped forward and grabbed old Dr. Chin's hand. Grandpa Chin, thank you for curing my brother's illness. Higi, little one, the one you should thank is yourself. If you hadn't cried so hard that day, I wouldn't have come inside to see what was going on. Old Dr. Chin stroked little Yan's head, somewhat moved. That day, he was wandering around the village and happened to hear little Yan's cries. Unable to bear it, he went inside to check and discovered how seriously ill Lu Qing was. Why thank little Yin? It was Grandpa Chin who cured my brother's illness, the little one said, slightly puzzled. It's not entirely my credit. Your brother getting better is also because he has a good fate, old Dr. Chin sighed. Yesterday after returning home, he had checked the medical books again and still hadn't found any records of Lu Qing's illness. Ultimately, it all came down to Lu Qing's good luck and having a good fate. Little Yin didn't understand old Dr. Chin's words and could only nod her head vaguely. Only then did Lu Qing realize that there was this additional reason for old Dr. Chin treating him. He affectionately looked at little Yin and bowed deeply to old Dr. Chin again. Thank you, Grandpa Chun, for saving my life. You. Never mind. Old Dr. Chin ultimately waved his hand, deciding not to explain further. Because he knew that even if he explained further, Lu Qing and his sister would still believe it was he who cured the illness. Since that was so, why bother with more explanations? Grandpa Chin, what were you doing just now, practicing boxing? At this moment, little Yin asked innocently. Lu Qing also looked towards old Dr. Chin. How come, little Yin? Could you tell that Grandpa Chin was doing boxing? Old Dr. Chin chuckled. I couldn't tell. Little Yin shook her head. It was brother who said that Grandpa Chin was practicing boxing, telling me not to talk and disturb you. I'm sorry, Grandpa Chin. We didn't know you were practicing, Lu Qing said apologetically. It doesn't matter. What I was practicing can barely be called a boxing technique. It was simply a stretching routine. The elder doctor waved his hand dismissively. But I think Grandpa Chen looked very graceful, little Yin said earnestly. Ha ha ha, old man that I am, having practiced this set of boxing my whole life, now to receive praise from a little fellow like you, it's all been worth it. Hearing little Yan's naive words, old Dr. Chen laughed heartily. Seeing the elder doctor so happy, Lu Qing's heart also relaxed. He had indeed been a bit afraid that the elder doctor had some rule against watching him practice boxing, If that were the case, he and his sister would have broken a taboo. Come on, let's go inside. I'll give you an acupuncture treatment first. Old Dr. Chen lifted little Yin and said to Lu Qing. Lu Qing respectfully followed the elder doctor towards the yard. Upon entering the yard, he was captivated by all the medicinal herbs drying there. He glanced around and recognized one of them, cowbone grass, which also grew in his own yard. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough time to identify each medicinal herb. Grandpa Chen, are all these dried items in the yard medicinal herbs? Lu Qing inquired. Indeed. Why? Can you recognize medicinal herbs? Old Dr. Chen was a bit surprised. Not really, Lu Qing replied. I just noticed that there's a type of herb here, which seems to grow near our home as well. Which one? The one drying in that winnowing basket. Lu Qing pointed in a direction. Seeing the blue flowers on the herb, little Yin also nodded repeatedly. Yes, there are a lot of them growing outside our house, and Yo likes to eat them too. The elder doctor glanced at it. That's right, that's cowbone grass, indeed a very common medicinal herb. Cowbone grass, Lu Qing repeated the name, then asked, Grandpa Chen, what is cowbone grass usually used for? It's mainly used to treat injuries from falls and blows, old Dr. Chen replied casually, then looked at Lu Qing. Why, are you interested in medicinal herbs? Yes, Lu Qing replied honestly. Little Yin mentioned that her illness was cured by a prescription from you, Grandpa Chen. This makes me think that medicinal herbs are truly miraculous. They are mere flowers and plants, yet they can relieve pain and save lives. If you want to learn about herbs, it's not easy. Studying medicine requires not only boldness and attention to detail, but also a clear mind. Moreover, you need to be literate and understand medical texts. The elder doctor did not mock Lu Qing's aspirations. Instead, he patiently explained. I do know some characters, Lu Qing quickly said. That statement wasn't false. In his memory, the original owner of the body did recognize some characters, and those characters, upon verification, were almost similar to the characters from his past life, only more complicated in their strokes. You know how to read? Old Dr. Chen was surprised again. In this rural area, finding someone who could read was not easy. Lu Qing was just an orphan, yet he knew how to read? When my paternal grandfather was alive, he taught me some characters. Unfortunately, I was slow and forgot some after my grandfather passed away. Moreover, I can only recognize them. I can't write. Old Dr. Chen then realized the situation in Lu Qing's family. There were rumors that Lu Qing's grandfather had been a down-and-out scholar. He had come here with the villagers fleeing a famine. Before he secluded himself here, he had already passed away, denying him the chance to meet. Furthermore, he had heard from the villagers that Lu Qing's father had a restless nature, unsuited for scholarly pursuits, and often infuriated his grandfather as a youth, ultimately failing to continue his studies. Unexpectedly, it was the young Lu Qing who could recognize some characters. Unfortunately, Lu Qing's grandfather passed away early. Otherwise, perhaps the Lu family might have produced another scholar. Old Dr. Chen sighed again silently, looking at Lu Qing with even gentler eyes. No wonder he felt that Lu Qing's speech was unlike that of a typical rural youth, probably influenced by the teachings of his grandfather and father. Since you're interested in medicinal herbs, from now on, each time you come for acupuncture, I'll allow you to help me air the herbs for half an hour, and how much you can remember will depend on your own understanding. And you, old Dr. Chen patted little Yan's head, you should come with your brother too. Grandpa Chen will cook some medicinal cuisine for you. With such a frail body, how can it be all right? Lu Qing was overjoyed and hurriedly expressed his thanks. Thank you, Grandpa Chen. Little Yin, aren't you going to thank Grandpa Chen? Thank you, Grandpa Chen, although the little one didn't understand what medicinal cuisine was, since her brother said so. She obediently expressed her thanks. What's there to thank me for? Seeing such a frail little body, Grandpa Chen feels pity too, the elder doctor said compassionately. Once inside the house, the elder doctor put little Yin down and took out a needle bag. He said to Lu Qing, go to the bed and take off your shirt. Lu Qing did as told, took off his shirt, and then lay down on the wooden bed beside him. Seeing his gaunt chest, old Dr. Chen fell silent for a moment before he drew a silver needle from the needle bag. Little Yin, seeing such a long silver needle, showed a hint of fear on her face. However, she knew Grandpa Chen was treating her brother and, though scared, stayed quietly in place without fussing. Don't be afraid, and don't move. I'm going to start the acupuncture now, the elder doctor told Lu Qing. Lu Qing nodded. He wasn't scared. In his past life on Blue Star, he had also experienced traditional Chinese acupuncture, so he was quite familiar with it. The elder doctor twirled the silver needle, gently aiming for a particular acupoint on Lu Qing, and Lu Qing didn't feel any pain as the needle penetrated 3 points into his flesh. Upon completing the first needle insertion, old Dr. Chen didn't hesitate and immediately took another silver needle from the bag, aiming for another channel point. Before long, 18 silver needles had been inserted into various acupoints on Lu Qing's upper body. As for little Yin, she had already covered her eyes, unable to watch her brother being pricked like a hedgehog. With the 18th silver needle inserted, this time old Dr. Chen didn't immediately let go of the needle. Instead, he held the tail of the needle and gently twirled it. Instantly, something marvelous happened. Lu Qing felt a warm current flowing under the needle. It was tingling and very comfortable. At the same time, a wave of sleepiness overcame him. His eyelids began to feel heavy, and he soon fell asleep. Grandpa Chen, has my brother fallen asleep? Little Yin covered her face, peeking through her fingers. Yes, your brother is very weak. This strengthening needle will let him have a good sleep. Oh, little Yin responded. Grandpa Chen was saying things she didn't understand again. Let's go. Let your brother sleep here for a while, and we'll go outside. The elder doctor stood up. Where are we going? Grandpa Chen will make you something delicious. When Lu Qing awoke from his deep slumber, the first sound he heard was little Yan's joyful laughter. He looked at himself and noticed the silver needles were gone, replaced by a thin blanket covering his body. He had no idea how long he had slept. Lu Qing thought to himself as he threw off the blanket and put on his upper garment, then stepped outside. In the courtyard, he saw old Dr. Chen sitting at a stone table with little Yin. He couldn't tell what they were discussing, but both were laughing heartily. Especially little Yin who, holding a piece of white pastry, looked particularly happy. Brother, you're awake. Little Yin, giggling, was surprised to see Lu Qing emerge from the house. She hopped down from the stone bench with a thud and passed the pastry to Lu Qing. Brother, look, this is a yam cake made by Grandpa Chen. It's really
Jazzy, thank you so much for the follow. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
tasty. Do you want a piece? Lu Qing did not take the pastry, but turned to old Dr. Chen, Grandpa Chen. I hope little Yin hasn't been causing you any trouble? Old Dr. Chen waved his hand dismissively. Not at all. Little Yan's innocence and cheerfulness make me quite happy. How are you feeling after just waking up? I feel very good. Lu Qing moved his body slightly. It feels like I've suddenly gained a lot of strength. Grandpa Chen, am I fully recovered now? Don't be so naive. The elder doctor chuckled. You were quite depleted, with a weak foundation. You need to slowly recuperate to fully recover. The strengthening needle I applied only temporarily stimulated your primordial qi, which is why you feel an illusion of increased strength. You'll need to continue with medicinal diet to replenish your body's deficiencies and recover fully. Here, have some of these yam cakes. Not only did I make them for little Yin, but for you as well. Try a few pieces. Yam is good for nourishing the spleen and lungs, as well as fortifying the kidneys and essence, which is exactly what you need. The elder doctor pushed the plate of pristine yam cakes forward on the stone table, gesturing for Lu Qing to take some. Lu Qing gazed at the plate of yam cakes with hesitation. Grandpa Chen, these yam cakes must be quite precious, right? Not particularly precious. They're rare to find outside, but the mountains here have plenty. They're not too difficult to find, and I still have some stored. Please, go ahead and eat. Elder Dr. Chen noted Lu Qing's reservations and reassured him with a warm voice. He made it sound easy, but Lu Qing knew better. Everyone was aware of the dangers in the mountain forests. It was the herb gatherer's skill that brought these yams. To regard these yam cakes as trivial would be overly naive. Nonetheless, he realized that if Elder Dr. Chen had come this far in offering, it would be too pedantic for him to refuse. So he gave Elder Dr. Chen a deep bow and expressed his gratitude. Then I deeply thank you, Grandpa Chen. After saying so, he sat down beside the stone table and began to eat a piece of yam cake. The cake was soft and fragrantly sweet, very delicious. Even for someone like Lu Qing who had tasted various modern pastries in his previous life, he found it exceptionally tasty. He focused on the cake in the plate, and as he did so, a white glow and a string of words appeared. Yam cake, a pastry made primarily with yam. Good for fortifying the spleen and lungs, strengthening the kidneys and vital essence, it seems to have significant restorative effects. Superpower's evaluation echoed exactly the effects old Dr. Chen had mentioned. Brother, isn't it delicious? Asked little Yin with pride. Indeed, it's very tasty, Lu Qing nodded honestly. Master Chen kept an eye on Lu Qing and saw that after he had eaten a few pieces of the yam cake, he stopped, prompting Master Chen to nod to himself internally. Despite being hungry, he maintained his manners in front of the delectable food, without giving in to gluttony. Lu Qing's performance had satisfied him quite a bit. In the past, he had not noticed that there was such a special youth in the village. However, it was still a bit too early to draw conclusions. He needed to observe for a while longer. Thinking of the idea that had come to him during Lu Qing's fainting spell, old Dr. Chen pondered for a moment. Then he said, Lu Qing, you mentioned an interest in medicinal herbs. Do you want to learn medicine? I wouldn't dare to speak blindly of learning medicine, Lu Qing quickly responded. I've merely witnessed the wonder of medicinal herbs and am drawn to it. Grandpa Chen is also aware that my family has suffered misfortune, with both parents passed on, and our household is as poor as can be. Relying solely on those 2 meager acres of land, it's really hard to get by. That's why I thought, if I could learn a bit about identifying and gathering herbs, perhaps I could use that skill to support my sister and myself. Gathering herbs is indeed a way out, old Dr. Chen nodded. But this path is not easy either. There are many dangers in the...
That is so nuts. I did not get far. Holy shit. That is crazy. Oh my gosh. Died at level 8. Oh, are you serious? That sucks, yo. That really sucks. Well, let's try again.
The Divine Sentinel is an angelic fighter, a magical champion that sacrifices physical strength for increased holy damage. The Crusader is a zealous warrior that infuses the power of the light into their weapons. Your melee strikes consecrate the ground beneath you, dealing holy damage to foes while increasing your own strength. In addition, your strikes reduce the cooldown of your holy spells, allowing you to become a whirlwind of righteous fury. Charge into battle, shatter the wicked, and become the Divine Sentinel is an angelic fighter, a magical champion that sacrifices physical strength for increased holy damage. Your melee strikes do less physical damage. The Crusader is a zealous warrior that infuses the power of the light. The Divine Sentinel is The Hellcat is a druid of flame, a heretic that has embraced... The Divine Sentinel is an angelic fighter, a magical champion that sacrifices physical strength for increased... The Storm Giant is the titanic beast of nature, an incarnation of thunder and lightning. Your lightning spellcasts build up storm charges in your weapon, which you can unleash to devastate a single enemy or shock multiple foes at once. Strike the ground to... The Divine Sentinel is an angelic fighter, a magical champion that sacrifices physical strength
Open your heart to the light.
Mountains, and becoming a skilled herb gatherer is not so simple. One has to try to know, and besides, what work in this world is easy? True, there is no work in this world that's easy, old Dr. Chin approved. It's rare to see someone with your understanding. If that's the case, then starting from the next time, after you're done with your acupuncture, stay and help me dry the herbs. How much you remember will depend on your perceptiveness. Thank you, Grandpa Chin. Although he had heard the elder doctor mention this before, hearing it again still filled Lu Qing with joy. Grandpa Chin, why can't you teach my brother today? Little Yin asked. The little one had been listening for a while and seemed to have understood a bit. Today won't do, old Dr. Chin laughed. Today, Grandpa Chin has to make a trip into town and doesn't have that much time. Into town? A thought stirred in Lu Qing's heart, but he held back. His behavior today had already been somewhat out of line. It wouldn't be appropriate to pry further. After all, even if he knew what was happening in the city now, it wouldn't be of much use to him. However, little Yin had no such reservations. Hearing that old Dr. Chin was going into town, she immediately widened her curious eyes. Grandpa Chin, what's it like in the city? The city, well, that's not something one can describe in a moment. When little Yin grows up, you can go see for yourself. The city is much better than the countryside in ways you wouldn't believe. Little Yin's face immediately lit up with longing. Even Lu Qing was surprised. From the elder doctor's words, the city seemed to indeed hold some sort of mystery. The three chatted for a while longer before the elder doctor stood up. All right, you should head back now. I need to prepare myself for the trip into town. Lu Qing, remember to come back for another strengthening needle in 3 days. Seeing the elder doctor getting ready to leave, Lu Qing hesitated for a moment, but then said, Grandpa Chun, there's something I wish to ask you about. Oh, what is that? I would like to ask about a type of thread one that's very strong and not prone to snapping. Thread? What do you need it for? Lu Qing weighed his words carefully before speaking. Yesterday, I went fishing by the river, and I realized that I might have some talent for angling. However, the fishing rods made from thread at home aren't very sturdy. If I apply a bit of force, the line tends to break, preventing me from catching big fish. So I wanted to ask Master Chin if there is any type of thread that's particularly strong and suitable for making a better fishing rod. Strong thread. The elder doctor fell into thought upon hearing Lu Qing's words. Suddenly, as if remembering something, he walked toward the house. Wait here for me. The elder doctor had gone into the house and soon came out again, holding a small box in his hand. Take this with you. The elder doctor handed the box to Lu Qing. What is this? Lu Qing opened the box, only to find inside a small bundle of nearly transparent white thread. This thread, the elder doctor said, was given to me years ago when I was traveling abroad. I saved an injured swordsman, and it's what he gave to me in gratitude. I don't know exactly what it is, only that this thread is exceptionally strong and not easily broken. It should meet your needs for making a fishing line. Grandpa Chun, this is too precious. I can't accept it, Lu Qing said, quickly pushing the object back when he heard this. Gifts given in gratitude for a saved life were bound to be out of the ordinary, and Lu Qing didn't dare take it lightly. However, hearing the word swordsman did stir something in him. This world indeed had such extraordinary figures. Elder Dr. Chin did not take it back. He waved his hand and said, just keep it. It's of no use to me. It has been in my possession for more than 10 years. I've never had a use for it. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have even forgotten I had such a thing. Since you need a strong thread to make a fishing line, you might as well use it. That way, it serves its purpose instead of gathering dust at my place. If you feel unworthy of it, just bring me some of the good catch you make someday. That little fish yesterday had a fine flavor, suitable to accompany a drink. Holding the box, Lu Qing felt both grateful and ashamed. The elder doctor had treated him and his sister so well, and yet he had been thinking about stealthily learning the physician's cultivation technique, which was truly shameful. Looking at the box in his hands, Lu Qing silently made a decision. In the days to come, unless Elder Dr. Chun took the initiative to teach him, he would absolutely not try to emulate the Elder Doctor's cultivation technique again. Don't worry, Grandpa Chun. If I catch anything good in the future, I will definitely bring it to you first thing," Lu Qing said earnestly, gripping the small box tightly. The elder doctor broke into a hearty laugh. "Huh, then I'll look forward to it." Exiting the elder doctor's home, Lu Qing's heart was racing with excitement. Today's gains had been immense. Not only had he earned the elder doctor's favor and received treatment, but he had also landed an opportunity to be taught how to identify medicinal herbs. And on top of that, he had acquired a box of mysterious thread. Intuition told Lu Qing that the thread Elder Dr. Chun had given him was no ordinary item. However, in front of the Elder Doctor earlier, it wouldn't have been good to keep staring at the thread, else he would have tried using his superpower to discover its secrets. Descending the mountain with Little Yin and returning to the village, Lu Qing saw several villagers carrying bamboo poles and buckets, chatting and laughing as they came back from the village entrance. Upon seeing Lu Qing, they started shouting from afar, "Lu Qing, Uncle Sure, have you just come back from fishing?" Lu Qing inquired, noticing the poles on the shoulders of the villagers. "Yes," said the villager Lu Qing called Uncle Sure, speaking with some excitement. "Didn't we listen to your advice yesterday about using earthworms for fishing? Early this morning, Dashin and I dug up some earthworms and tried them out by the river. Your method really works. Just look at our catch for today." With that, he showed Lu Qing the bucket he was carrying. Lu Qing saw that the bucket did contain quite a few fish, around 1 or 2 pounds worth. Some were even bigger than the ones he had caught yesterday. After looking at the buckets of several other villagers, he saw that each of them had a decent catch, the smallest amount being half a pound of fish. One villager was particularly lucky, having caught a fish that weighed over a pound. But the villager was also annoyed. "I had hooked an even bigger one before, but the fish was so strong that it snapped my line, and I couldn't even find the hook anymore. I told you not to pull so hard, tease it a bit, but you had to arm wrestle with it. It's no wonder the line broke." Another villager criticized. "How could I have known that the fish would be so strong? I'm sure it was at least 5 pounds. Come on, at most it was 2 pounds. If it were 5 pounds, you wouldn't have been able to hold on to it from the start. It was definitely 5 pounds. Listening to the villagers argue about the size of the big fish they failed to land, Lu Qing couldn't help but chuckle. He was all too familiar with this scene. In his previous life when he went fishing with his buddies, it was exactly like this. Whenever someone's line was cut, no matter how it happened, they would definitely exaggerate the size of the fish. Anything less than 10 pounds was an insult to their fishing skills. He hadn't expected that. Even after being reborn in the other world, he would still witness this scene. Sure enough, no matter which world, the nature of fishermen is so similar. Lu Qing's laughter made Uncle Sure and the others feel a little embarrassed. Especially with Little Yin staring wide-eyed at their argument, it made them feel even more ashamed. For a group of adults to argue like this in front of 2 children was really detrimental to the elder's dignity. "Lu Qing, where have you both come back from?" In order to relieve the awkwardness, Uncle Sure could only change the subject. "We've just come back from Grandpa Chen's place," Lu Qing replied. Uncle Sure nodded. "Old Dr. Chun. Yes, it makes sense. He cured your illness. It's only right to visit and express your gratitude." He had mistakenly assumed Lu Qing had gone to thank the elder doctor. "Yes, without Grandpa Chen, I probably wouldn't be able to stand here right now." Lu Qing didn't deny it. "By the way, Lu Qing, the fishing techniques we're using were provided by you. You should pick out a few fish to take home and eat," Uncle Sure said. "Yeah, if it weren't for your techniques, we wouldn't have known that earthworms could be used for fishing. Pick from mine, pick from mine. My fish are bigger." "Are your fish as big as mine?" "The biggest fish were caught by me. Choose mine." The other villagers also chimed in one after another. "Uncles, there's no need. I still haven't finished eating the fish I caught yesterday," Lu Qing politely declined. "If you can't finish them, eat more. You and Little Yin are both so thin. Fish is nutritious. You should eat more fish." In the end, Lu Qing couldn't resist the villagers' pressure and symbolically picked a few fish from each villager's bucket, threading a grass stem through them. Like that, he also ended up with a good half a pound of fish. "Take some more." Uncle Sure kept persuading. "I really can't take any more. If I do, I won't have enough oil and salt to cook them at home." This time, Lu Qing resolutely refused to take any more. Hearing this, Uncle Sure and the rest finally stopped urging him. Indeed, if you don't have oil and salt to cook fish, you can't get rid of the fishy smell, and it's really not that tasty. And so, carrying a string of fish and with Little Yin by his side, Lu Qing bid farewell to Uncle Shi and the others before heading back to his own small courtyard. Once home, he first placed the fish in the kitchen. Then, he took out the small box that Elder Qin had given him. Opening the box, he quietly looked at the silk thread inside. After examining the thread for a while, a faint red light emanated. Snow Silkworm Silk. Thread spat by the spirit worm Snow Silkworm. Extremely tough. Impervious to water and fire, immune to cuts from swords, it seems to be a fine treasure. Main material for making Snow Silkworm silk clothing. When Lu Qing used his superpower to investigate the information about the thread old Dr. Qin had given him, he couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise on his face. This mysterious thread was actually a red light level item. Having awakened his superpower some time ago, Lu Qing had come to understand that the glow revealed by items under his power's scrutiny often indicated their preciousness. The glows he had detected on items thus far were 3 types: gray, white, red. Among them, he had only seen red light on old Dr. Qin before, and the information revealed by the superpower showed that the Elder Doctor was a deeply hidden cultivation practitioner. Now, he had discovered yet another red light item, and this item was also given by the Elder Doctor. I didn't expect this to be a red light treasure. Lu Qing had thought that this thread was no ordinary item, but he hadn't realized it would be so valuable. To be judged a treasure by his superpower, it must indeed be extraordinary. Look at how the information bar describes it. Impervious to water and fire, immune to cuts from swords. What kind of thread could have such characteristics if not a treasure? I wonder if old Dr. Qin knows how magical this thread is. Lu Qing felt a complex mix of emotions. In just a few days, he and Little Yin had received many favors from old Dr. Qin, and now he had even given them such precious thread. This made him feel both touched and ashamed. After all, he knew that his reason for getting close to old Dr. Qin was not entirely pure. It seems I can only seriously fish for some good items to give to Grandpa Qin. Lu Qing wanted very much to repay old Dr. Qin's kindness. But nowadays, there really was nothing decent to offer at home. Moreover, with the Elder Doctor's discerning taste, monetary items might not catch his eye, especially since he had even given away a treasure like the Snow Silkworm Silk. The only approach Lu Qing could take was starting from his hobby. Previously, from what the Elder Doctor had said, he seemed quite fond of fish. Conveniently, fishing was what Lu Qing was most skilled at. It seems you were destined to become my fishing line. Lu Qing picked up the small bundle of Snow Silkworm silk and immediately felt a soft, cool sensation upon handling it. The thread's thickness was similar to the river fishing lines he had used in his past life, and he wondered what kind of magical creature the Snow Silkworm really was to be capable of producing such thick silk. This bundle of Snow Silkworm silk didn't look very large, but upon closer inspection, Lu Qing realized that fully unraveled, it would likely be 100 meters long. Making a fishing line clearly wouldn't require this much silk. Lu Qing fetched a kitchen cleaver from the kitchen and prepared to cut off a segment of the silk to make a fishing line. However, when he placed the silk on a block of wood and chopped down, the silk sank into the wood along with the blade's edge, completely unharmed. It was then that Lu Qing remembered the superpower's description of the silk. Impervious to water and fire, immune to cuts from swords. He had originally thought this might just be a rhetorical way to describe the toughness of the silk. Unexpectedly, it was indeed just as it was described literally. At least for now, with the bluntness of the kitchen cleaver, it seemed impossible to cut through the Snow Silkworm silk. This did not hurry Lu Qing. To verify whether the Snow Silkworm silk was truly impervious to water and fire, he fetched a fire lighter from the kitchen, lit it up, and then placed a small segment of the silk directly in the flame to heat. As it turned out, the Snow Silkworm silk did not break immediately, withstanding the flame for a full 5 minutes before burning through. It seems impervious to water and fire is really just impervious, not invulnerable. Lu Qing looked at the small segment of silk that had fallen to the ground, contemplating. Of course, being able to withstand the fire for 5 minutes was already quite impressive. After all, this was silk, not wire. However, the fact that the Snow Silkworm silk could be burned through was good news for Lu Qing. If even fire couldn't affect it, and with such long silk unable to be cut, he would have had to make it into a throwing rod instead. But making a throwing rod is much more complicated than a hand pole. Moreover, when he used to make throwing rods, many parts were bought directly. He had never tried making everything from scratch. Under current conditions, it was not realistic for him to make a functional throwing rod. Fortunately, now that the Snow Silkworm silk could be burned through, it spared him a lot of trouble. Next, Luqing began to dedicate himself entirely to making a fishing rod. First, he chose the bamboo poles. Equipped with a kitchen cleaver, Luqing spent an entire day picking out a few slender old bamboo poles in the bamboo forest behind the village before chopping them down and bringing them home. After selecting the bamboo poles, it was time for trimming and baking the bamboo, and treating it for pest resistance, etc. These tasks also required a significant amount of time. But Luqing couldn't wait that long, so he chose one old bamboo pole and, after lightly baking it, immediately used it to make a fishing rod. The rest of the bamboo poles were left to be carefully baked later. After the bamboo poles were selected, the rest was easy. It didn't take much effort before Luqing had managed to make a new fishing rod. Ta-da! Little Yin, look, how does this new fishing rod look? Pretty, isn't it? The next morning, with the newly made fishing rod on his shoulder, Luqing asked Little Yin. Pretty. The clever and cute Little Yin immediately turned into an enthusiastic supporter, nodding vigorously. I think it's pretty too. Luqing flicked the fishing rod, his face full of pride. Although it was made in a rush, the quality of this new fishing rod was not bad. At this moment, in Luqing's eyes, the new fishing rod was emitting a thick white light. Snow Silkworm Silk Fishing Rod. A fishing rod made with snow silkworm silk as the fishing line. The line is tough, the rod is stable, and it can withstand 100 caddies of force without breaking. With this rod, you might be able to catch big fish. When Luqing first saw these words, he was startled. The new fishing rod he made could actually withstand 100 caddies of force. Snow silkworm silk is a treasure. Being able to withstand 100 caddies of force is impressive, but still acceptable. However, the fact that the old bamboo casually growing on the hill behind the village was also so tough was beyond his expectations. All he could say was, worthy of otherworld. Not only could it give birth to such wonders as snow silkworm silk, even the bamboo that grows here was outstanding. If his old fishing buddies from his previous life knew about this, their eyes would probably glow green with envy. Brother, the fishing rod is ready. Are we going fishing now? Asked Little Yin. Nuji. Let's go, of course. With the new fishing rod in hand, Luqing was brimming with confidence. Moreover, it had taken him 2 whole days to make this fishing rod. The fish at home had been mostly eaten over these 2 days. More importantly, in another day, it was time for his appointment with Elder Dr. Chen for acupuncture. This time, when going to the Elder Doctor's house, he couldn't go empty-handed. Yay, we can go fishing again. Little Yin immediately became excited upon hearing this. Brother, I'll help you dig for earthworms. Saying this, she ran outside. Luqing shook his head. The little one didn't seem to realize most kids, especially girls, are somewhat afraid of worms and bugs. Yet, she was not scared at all. Instead, she even wanted to help him catch earthworms. Her courage was much greater than that of ordinary little girls. I wonder if Little Yin will become a lady as I wish, or turn into a tomboy. A tinge of worry flashed unexpectedly through Luqing's heart. Although there was nothing wrong with being a tomboy, if possible, he still hoped his sister could become a gentle and virtuous girl. Shaking his head, he threw these distant thoughts out of his mind and walked outside with the fishing rod. Once outside the yard, Little Yin was already waiting for him with a bamboo tube filled with earthworms. Brother, hurry up. Little Yin urged. Coming. Luqing picked up the shovel from outside the house and walked over. After digging up the earthworms, Luqing took out a small cloth bag from the house and put it in his pocket. Brother, what is this? The little one asked curiously. This is our secret weapon. Whether we can catch big fish today depends entirely on it, Luqing said mysteriously. Big fish. The little one's eyes immediately lit up. She didn't know how big the fish Luqing mentioned would be, but it sounded very impressive. After packing the secret weapon, Luqing also fetched the wooden barrel used to store fish a few days ago, picked up the new fishing rod, and headed forward. Let's go, set off. Set off. Little Yin also shouted in her tender voice. Before long, the siblings had reached the entrance of the village. Little Yin was leading, jumping along with the bamboo tube holding the earthworms. She continuously muttered, big fish, passing villagers who saw her like this couldn't help but laugh. Little Yin, where are you and your brother heading? It's Uncle Zhao. I'm going with my brother to the river to fish, to catch big fish. The little one politely replied. Oh, big fish, huh? How do you know you'll catch a big fish? Uncle Zhao teased her. Of course, I know because my brother said so, and he's the best at fishing. The little one declared proudly. Haha, Yes, yes, your brother is the best. Seeing her proud little figure, Uncle Zhao laughed even more and humored her. Children say the darndest things, Uncle Zhao, please don't mind, Lu Qing said apologetically. No worries, no worries, little Yin is cute just like that, Uncle Zhao chuckled. When you were sick a few days ago, the way she cried really made one's heart ache. But still, you go fishing, but make sure to keep an eye on little Yin. Don't let her play in the water. I know, Lu Qing answered seriously. Little Yin, did you hear that? Listen to your brother. When we get to the river, don't go playing in the water secretly, okay? Uncle Zhao once again cautioned little Yin. I know, the little one answered obediently. I'm very well behaved. Yes, little Yin is the most well behaved. Uncle Zhao ruffled her hair, his tone somewhat wistful. After saying goodbye to Uncle Zhao, the siblings continued towards the river. However, when they arrived at the river, both were dumbfounded. They found that the spot where Lu Qing had fished last time was already taken. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 people, but 7 or 8 people squeezed into a small space. Moreover, the siblings knew these people. They were all villagers from their village. Lu Qing, you're here to fish as well? Why not come over and squeeze in with us? One villager greeted them. We've run out of fish at home, so I thought I'd come here to catch some, Lu Qing said with a smile. He then curiously asked, why are you all squeezed together fishing? Aren't you afraid of tangling your fishing lines by accident? Tell me about it. We don't want to either, the villager sighed painfully. It's too hard to catch fish anywhere else. You might wait ages just to get one. Only at this spot is it easier to catch fish. By the way, they said you fished here last time? Because it's easier to catch fish, so you all squeezed together? Lu Qing was somewhat speechless. But he still nodded. Yes, I fished here last time. Then you were really amazing. The villager gave him a thumbs up. You picked such a good spot. These past few days, we caught the most fish here. But today, for some reason, the fish have started biting less. Of course, they're biting less. With so many of you crammed into one spot, even a lot of fish would get fished out. Even if they weren't fished out, the remaining ones must have become skittish. Lu Qing shook his head. This fishing spot was probably going to be ruined. At least for a long time, it would be hard for it to return to its original state. You guys keep fishing. I'll try my luck elsewhere. After expressing his speechlessness, Lu Qing led little Yin in another direction. The villagers didn't try to stop them. Rather, they breathed a sigh of relief. It was crowded enough here. If another person joined, there really would be no space left. As for Lu Qing saying he was going to try his luck elsewhere, they didn't care. In the past few days, they had also tried fishing in other parts of the river, but with little success. Fishing around, they found that this spot was indeed the easiest to catch fish. Otherwise, they wouldn't all be crowding here. After leaving the popular fishing spot, Lu Qing walked on with little Yin. Although he felt speechless about the villagers' actions, he couldn't really complain. After all, the river belonged to everyone, and everyone had the right to fish here. It wasn't as if once someone fished at a certain spot, that spot would belong to them. So regarding the villagers taking over the popular fishing spot, Lu Qing didn't feel much about it. After all, he possessed superpower, so if a spot was taken, he could just find another. With such a long river, there must be countless fishing spots. Surely there would be no lack of places to fish. Thinking this way, Lu Qing continued walking forward with little Yin. He didn't even go to the other 2 fishing spots he had discovered last time, because those 2 spots were also within other villagers' line of sight. What if he caught fish there and everyone rushed to take advantage of the spot? What would he do then? So he might as well go far away to a place no one could see to fish, to avoid unnecessary trouble. Since he was well prepared this time, not only did he bring fishing rods and a bucket, but also the firewood knife from home, so he could clear a new fishing spot anytime. Lu Qing led little Yin, walking slowly along the riverbank, and kept using his superpower to search the river surface. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. At a bend in the river, Lu Qing finally discovered another new fishing spot. Primary fishing point, nutrient-rich, lush with aquatic plants, a favorite foraging ground for fish. Here, mutant fruits grow, which are the preferred food of some strange fish. Fishing here might bring unexpected joy. Its radiance was even more intense than the first primary fishing point he had found. Mutant fruits growing above? Lu Qing looked up, searching the bank near the fishing spot. Soon, several oddly shaped plants caught his attention. Under the scrutiny of superpower, these plants also emitted a white light. Blood apricot tree can bear blood apricots, non-toxic, usable in medicine. Rumor has it that blood apricots contain a special substance that is highly favored by some strange fish. Blood apricots? Lu Qing had the small red fruits hanging from the trees, about the size of a little finger. Were these the mutant fruits that the strange fish like to eat? Intrigued, he walked forward. Fortunately, the blood apricot trees weren't too tall, so he easily managed to pick a handful. Brother, those fruits look so yummy. Little Yin couldn't help but swallow at the sight of the blood-red blood apricots in Lu Qing's hand. These aren't meant for eating. Although the information from Superpower indicated that blood apricots were non-toxic, it also mentioned they could be used medicinally, and since they were medicinal, Lu Qing didn't dare to let Little Yin eat them recklessly. If they're not for eating, what did you pick them for, brother? For fishing, some fishy fish really like these fruits. I want to try and see if I can use them to catch a big fish, Lu Qing explained. Big fish like fruits too? Little Yan's eyes widened with surprise. Yeah, fishy fish like to eat all sorts of things. Earthworms, fruits, corn, grass. They all like it. They even like corn and grass. The little one's eyes widened even more. It was her first time hearing about this, and she found it absolutely fascinating. So these fruits aren't for Little Yin to eat. They are to fish for big fishy fish. Got it. Little Yin understands. The little one nodded her head repeatedly. She was more interested in the big fish than in the fruits. Little Yin, you wait here for a moment. Brother is going to tidy up the surrounding area. After instructing Little Yin not to wander off, Lu Qing secured his short-handled firewood knife to a stick and began to clear the weeds and miscellaneous trees around the fishing spot. Tidying up fishing spots had been common practice for Lu Qing in his previous life, so he was naturally skilled at it now. Before long, he had cleared away the weeds and miscellaneous trees by the bank and created a good spot for fishing. However, he didn't touch the few blood apricot trees, as they, being white light-level plants, were valuable. Once the fishing spot was prepared, Lu Qing was ready to begin fishing. He still didn't bait the area with food, as the food supply at home wasn't plentiful enough to afford such wastefulness. With the Otherworld's rivers so rich in resources and selected by his superpower as a natural fishing spot, he was confident in catching fish even without baiting. Sitting by the bank, Lu Qing decided to start with earthworms, to secure his meals for the next 2 days first and foremost. After threading an earthworm onto the hook, he cast it into the water, the float settling on the surface. Worthy of being the widest of the glows among a few fishing spots selected by his superpower. No sooner had Lu Qing dropped his hook into the water, and before he could even put down his fishing rod, he saw the float start to move. It trembled a few times, then sharply darted downwards. With a flick of his wrist, a whoosh sounded, and he instantly pulled the fish up. The fish wasn't big, a small whitefish about wide. Lu Qing raised an eyebrow, guessing that this little whitefish must be one of the most common fish in the river, always present everywhere. It's a little whitefish. Little Yin had also recognized the fish on the hook and exclaimed immediately, "Yes, whitefish. Looks like we're going to have a big haul today." Lu Qing removed the fish and placed it in the bucket. Having a fish bite so quickly was an auspicious start, and it gave him the premonition that he might really catch something big today. With that thought, Lu Qing's spirits lifted. However, what happened next was a bit beyond Lu Qing's expectations. After catching several more small fish, when he cast his line again, there was a long pause with no sign of fish biting. When small fish aren't biting, it means there are either no fish left or there's a big one down there driving away the school of small fish. The experienced Lu Qing quickly made his own judgment. He promptly pulled up the hook, removed the earthworm on it, and then took out a small cloth bag. It's the secret weapon. Little Yin immediately recognized this as something her brother had packed when they left home. Lu Qing opened the cloth bag and took out several kernels of glistening golden corn. This corn was what Lu Qing had gotten from Aunt Wang next door that morning, naturally to use as bait. In his previous life, when Lu Qing went wild fishing, corn was what he usually used to catch big fish. Fish like carp and grass carp especially loved to eat corn, and it never failed him. He wasn't sure if the big fish in this world were the same, but it was worth a shot. If that didn't work, he planned to try the newly picked blood apricots. Hooking a plump, fresh kernel of corn, Lu Qing cast his line once again. Unexpectedly, this time, the result took him by surprise. The moment the hook hit the water, before the float even steadied and while he was half crouching preparing to sit, suddenly, without any warning, the float dramatically sank beneath the water, the fishing line went taut, and a tremendous force from the rod pulled Lu Qing into a stumble. Lu Qing reacted quickly, taking a step forward to stabilize his stance. Nice try, ambushing me. Clasping the fishing rod tightly, he felt the tug from the line. His face lit up with excitement. This is definitely a big fish. Such strength, surely it's not something a fish less than 5 pounds could exert. Roaring. When the fish couldn't break free, it started to exert more force, pulling the fishing line taut and creating a whooshing sound. Think you can slip away from my hands? No way. Seeing the fish exert force again, Lu Qing wasn't the least bit panicked. He slightly loosened his grip, releasing most of the tension. Then he tightened again, continuing the struggle with the fish below. His new fishing rod, certified by a superpower, could withstand 100 pounds of force, and he didn't believe the fish could break it. Brother, you can do it. Little Yin, standing by his side, was very nervous. But she dared not shout loudly, fearing she might scare the big fish away, so she could only clench her small fists and quietly cheer for her brother. The next period was a time of wit and strength between Lu Qing and the fish. The two sides tugged back and forth for half an hour before Lu Qing felt the fish's strength start to wane. I finally worn you out, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief. This tussle had drained quite a bit of his energy. Had it not been for the acupuncture he received from Elder Dr. Chen a couple of days ago, which replenished a lot of his primordial qi, he might not have lasted. Once the fish reached its limit, it had no chance of escaping from Lu Qing's grasp. After a while, with another burst of effort from Lu Qing, the big fish, which had struggled with him for a long time, finally surfaced. The siblings finally got a clear view of the fish's true appearance. What a big fish! Upon seeing the fish's head and back, little Yin couldn't help but exclaim loudly. Even Lu Qing couldn't help but feel a bit excited. Goodness, with this size, this fish must be over 10 pounds. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Lu Qing clutched the fishing rod tightly. Fishing, especially near the end, requires utmost attention. Otherwise, if the fish were to escape at the last moment, he might rue it deeply even at his 80th birthday. However, despite utmost caution, a mishap still occurred as Lu Qing prepared to land the fish. He realized a significant problem. He hadn't prepared a landing net. Of course, this wasn't really his fault, as they didn't have a net at home. Not just a landing net, they didn't even have a simple net. Without a net, he couldn't simply scoop up the fish. Lu Qing had no choice but to continue playing it. Only when the fish was utterly exhausted did he let little Yin hold the rod while he lay on the bank, planning to personally lift the fish up. This was actually risky because a fish of this size might still have some strength left. A swish of its tail could potentially knock someone unconscious. Fortunately, this fish had indeed been worn out completely by Lu Qing. In the end, all was well. Lu Qing managed to lift the fish. Brother, this big fish looks even taller than little Yin. When the fish was lifted away from the riverbank, little Yin measured it and immediately marveled. It does seem a bit taller. Lu Qing checked and it indeed was. This big fish was over 1 meter long, even taller than little Yin by a bit. Let me see what kind of fish this actually is. Lu Qing saw that the fish, with its elongated body and neatly arranged scales like armor plates, looked quite imposing. He immediately used his superpower to check the fish's information. As he focused his gaze, a dense white light soon emerged from the big fish. It's a white light. Lu Qing felt a touch of disappointment. He had hoped that such a big fish might reach the red light level. But then again, he considered himself a bit too greedy. If this fish were at the red light level, whether he could have landed it at all was still in question. After all, he had only seen red light level objects twice before. One was Elder Dr. Chen, and the other was Snow Silkworm Silk. And both were out of the ordinary. Elder Dr. Chen was a practitioner of cultivation, and Snow Silkworm Silk was even more an exotic treasure. If this big fish also reached the red light level, it might have some special abilities. In that case, it was uncertain who would pull whom. It was possible that on the very first try, he would be dragged into the water. After calming his mind, Lu Qing focused his attention on the new piece of text that appeared. Green armored fish, a large fish species, covered in green armored scales, considered a tyrant in the river, containing fish stone. Rumor has it that in the throat of a fully grown green armored fish, there lies a fish stone. Obtaining and polishing it to where can have soul-soothing and mind-stabilizing effects. When Lu Qing read the information on the text, he was immediately delighted. Fish stone. This big fish he just caught contained a fish stone. Lu Qing was not unfamiliar with fish stone. In his previous life, he had caught a wild green fish weighing over 20 pounds, which had a fish stone inside it. At that time, a boss had offered him over 10,000 for it. but he didn't sell it. As for the reason, besides liking it, it was naturally because there had always been a rumor in the fishing community. It was said that fish stones of a certain age could safeguard one's safety. Whether the fish stone from his previous life could ensure safety was unclear to Lu Qing. But the fish stone inside this green armored fish was recognized by his superpower as having soul-soothing and mind-stabilizing effects. It happened to be that little Yin, since the death of their parents, had not been sleeping well at night, often waking up from nightmares needing his embrace to continue sleeping. If the fish stone from this green armored fish really had such magical effects, that would be wonderful. In excitement, Lu Qing almost could not help himself from ripping open the green armored fish. Fortunately, he still had his senses and ultimately controlled himself. "Brother, how are we going to take this big fish home? The bucket seems too small." At this moment, little Yin asked in some distress. She had just measured, and the big fish was much taller than the wooden barrel they brought. It wouldn't fit at all. "No problem. In a moment your brother will twist some grass ropes and carry it back," Lu Qing confidently said. "It's just a fish that weighs about 10 or 20 pounds. The fish has been caught. How hard could it be to carry it back?" "Is that so? Are we going to continue fishing?" Little Yin asked again. This question stumped Lu Qing. With his usual experience, after the long struggle and pulling with this green armored fish, he had covered the entire nearby water area of the fishing spot. Generally, at such times, the bottom would be stirred up, and even if there were fish, they would have scattered. But then he thought about the blood apricots he picked earlier and hesitated. According to the information given by his superpower, blood apricots were delicacies for some strange fish. As a seasoned fishing enthusiast, he was quite curious about these so-called strange fish. What special characteristics could those labeled as strange by his superpower have? Even this green armored fish possessing a fish stone didn't seem to earn the title of strange from his superpower. What kind of strangeness did these so-called strange fish have? After some hesitation, Lu Qing decided to fish a little longer. They were said to be strange fish. Perhaps they were not scared away by the green armored fish? Thus, with such luck in mind, Lu Qing filled a bucket with water, positioned the head of the green armored fish downward, barely soaking it in the bucket, then sat back at the fishing spot. However, he also made up his mind to fish just a little longer. After a while, if no fish bit, he would head home. Otherwise, the green armored fish might not last too long. Dead fish are never as tasty as live ones. Having reset his stance, Lu Qing this time directly hung a blood apricot on the fish hook. He cast the hook into the water and began quietly waiting. Time ticked by second, and quickly, half an hour had passed. The float showed no signs of movement, as if it had stopped. Looks like it stirred up the area after all. Even the strange fish couldn't avoid it. Lu Qing sighed. This result was not beyond his expectations. He just had held a bit of hope earlier. "Let's head back." Just as Lu Qing was preparing to pack up his fishing rod to head home, suddenly, he saw the float sharply dive into the water. Suddenly, the bite caught Lu Qing off guard. Fortunately, with his many years of fishing experience, his reactions were always timely. In just an instant, he gripped the fishing rod firmly, stabilized his posture, and managed not to be dragged into the water with the rod. This pull was no weaker than that of the previous green armored fish. "Wow, you fish from the other world really like to sneak attack, huh?" Feeling the pulling force transmitted through the rod, Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh and cry. As an experienced angler, today he had nearly capsized twice and had to tackle it seriously. The big fish of this other world really didn't play fair no prelude before biting and always launching sneak attacks. If it weren't for his extensive experience, they would have succeeded. But since the first sneak attack failed, all of you might as well come up. Lu Qing held the fishing rod tightly with both hands, constantly sensing the changes in the force on the rod and reacting accordingly, starting a new round of wrestling with the fish underwater. After wrestling for a while, Lu Qing noticed something was off. He had assumed the new fish on the hook would be similar in size to the green armored fish. After all, the initial pulling force was quite strong. But now, he felt a difference. Unlike the green armored fish, whose force was mighty and relentless, the current fish, though also fierce in strength, lacked persistence. As long as Lu Qing could stabilize the initial burst, it quickly weakened. It was the kind of explosive but not enduring type. Based on experience, Lu Qing guessed that the fish underwater wasn't as big as he initially thought. Rather, it was a type of fish that moved quickly and had strong explosive power, but was not large in size. Knowing this, Lu Qing felt even more at ease. Fish that sprint and speed were much easier to deal with than big fish like the green armored fish. The big fish like the green armored fish had immense strength. A mere effort could require his utmost care. Moreover, they had good stamina, and it was a test of patience on both sides. For fish with explosive sprinting, as long as he could stabilize the initial struggle, the fish's strength would continue decreasing, and there would be no escape. Things went just as Lu Qing had anticipated. After stabilizing a few bursts of force from the unknown fish underwater, he distinctly felt that its explosive force had begun to wane. Then, after a period of pulling and tugging, Lu Qing saw the outline of the fish. Red fish? When he saw the fish hooked and emerging from the water, Lu Qing was stunned for a moment, because the fish turned out to be a vibrant fiery red. Strange fish. This was definitely a strange fish. Seeing such an eye-catching brilliant red, Lu Qing's heart instantly stirred with excitement. He also noticed that the red fish really wasn't very big, only about 20 to 30 centimeters long. With this understanding, it became much easier for Lu Qing to handle the fish. Before long, the fish was nearly deprived of its strength, and he directly lifted it out of the water. "Brother, that fish is so beautiful," Little Yen exclaimed, her eyes lighting up as she looked at the fish on the grass. "It really is beautiful." Lu Qing, after getting a clear view of the fish's appearance, couldn't help but admire. The newly caught fish was about a foot long, slender in shape, much resembling the carp from the blue star of his previous life. It had two graceful long barbels near its mouth and a tail that was like a blossomed flower. Coupled with its flame-like red scales, the entire fish looked exceedingly beautiful. After watching for a while, the information about the fish began to appear before Lu Qing's eyes. Red moon carp, strange fish, clad in red scale armor, which swims exceptionally fast. Because its body contains a hint of spiritual charm, its flesh is extremely nourishing and delicious, and its scales can also be used in medicine. Rumor has it that if the red moon carp is properly nurtured, it may have a chance to evolve into a spirit fish. Along with several descriptions, there was also a glow emanating from the fish's body, a white light tinged with a hint of red. Red light? At first, Lu Qing thought he had seen it wrong. That red light was a reflection off the scales of the red moon carp. But after he looked closely, he confirmed that it was not a reflection from the scales, but indeed a glow that only his superpower could see, representing the grade of the object. That is to say, this red moon carp was not merely at the level of white light. It was a strange fish at a level between white and red light. No wonder, he thought, why there were 3 descriptions. Typically, white light items only had 2 descriptions. He immediately focused on the 3rd description. Has a chance to evolve into a spirit fish. Lu Qing pondered as he read the 3rd description. Could this spirit fish be a higher level of existence than the strange fish? He suddenly remembered the snow silkworm silk gifted by Elder Dr. Chen. The snow silkworm silk was already a treasure at the red light level. Perhaps the snow silkworm that spawned such treasure might be a spiritual silkworm. Unfortunately, this speculation was destined to remain unanswered for the time being. Even Elder Dr. Chen did not know the origin of the snow silkworm silk, so even if he wanted to ask, there was nowhere to turn for answers. Thus, compared to the 3rd description, the 2nd description was more useful to him. The flesh is extremely nourishing and delicious. Lu Qing smiled slightly as he read the information on the tag. Finally, he had a gift for Elder Dr. Chen tomorrow. Initially, he had planned to take the green armored fish to the Elder Doctor if there were no further catches. But now, clearly, the red moon carp was more precious, and its size was not too large, making it more suitable as a gift. Thinking of this, Lu Qing quickly took out the green armored fish and put the red moon carp into the bucket. Since it was to be a gift, he couldn't let it die. Fortunately, the red moon carp lived up to its name as a strange fish. Although it had previously been exhausted by Lu Qing and had spent quite a while on the grass, once it was back in the water in the bucket, it immediately started swimming again. Its vitality was remarkably tenacious. After obtaining the red moon carp, Lu Qing no longer thought of continuing fishing. Battling with 2 large fish had nearly exhausted his strength. If he continued fishing, even if he could still catch fish, he wouldn't have the strength to manage them anymore. So it was best to quit while ahead. Little Yin, let's get ready to go back. Lu Qing improvised with materials at hand, twisting a grass rope to secure and carry the green armored fish. Holding the bucket in one hand and the firewood knife and fishing rod in the other, he then said to Little Yin, "Brother, let me help you carry some things." Little Yin saw her brother both carrying and holding so much, and she felt a bit heartbroken for him. That works. Lu Qing tried walking a bit and realized that he indeed had too many things to carry comfortably. After thinking, he first hung the bamboo tube with earthworms around Little Yan's neck. Then, he placed the fishing rod on her shoulder. Little Yan, you carry the fishing rod. Be careful as you walk. Don't trip. Okay, Little Yan knows. The little girl nodded seriously. In this way, the siblings, one carrying the fish and the other the fishing rod, struggled back along their way. When they passed by the small fishing spot, the villagers who saw the large and small figures were immediately stunned. When Lu Qing and Little Yan appeared at the fishing spot, the villagers who were still fishing there were stunned by the sight of the fish on Lu Qing's back. Lu Qing, what? What are you carrying on your back? A villager stammered. A fish. Lu Qing took a breath and replied. He really felt a little tired. His body had not fully recovered yet, and he had struggled with the green-armored fish and the red moon carp for so long. Now, walking with so much on his back was becoming too much. However, his answer somewhat exasperated the villagers. Nonsense. They obviously knew he was carrying fish. The question was, where had he managed to catch such big fish? The villagers looked at the fish on Lu Qing's back, which was almost as tall as his body, and dragged its tail on the ground, and felt a bit dizzy. Oh my God, it was the first time they had seen such a big fish. But some villagers noticed Lu Qing's difficulty and quickly stepped forward to help him unload the fish. Come on, let me carry it for you. Your body has just recovered not long ago. Don't get tired again. Lu Qing didn't refuse. He really was struggling to keep up. He had thought he could carry the fish home, but it seemed he had overestimated his strength. Thank you. Brother Da and Lu Qing set the fish down and took a deep breath. No need to thank me. It's the first time I've seen such a big fish, and touching one is a blessing. No, wait. There's another one in this bucket. Such a beautiful fish. Villager Da and was delighted and bent down to look, then exclaimed in surprise. The other villagers, hearing this, could no longer hold back and immediately crowded around to look into the bucket. It really is. There's another big fish in the bucket. What fish is this, bright red? I've never seen this before. This fish is so beautiful. The nobles in the city will surely like it. My goodness, Lu Qing, how did you manage to catch two big fish at once? When the final question came out, everyone looked at Lu Qing. How I fished them. Just like you guys, Lu Qing reached out and took the fishing rod from Little Yan's shoulder. I just chose a spot upstream, never expecting to catch two big fish. It was luck. Where exactly did you fish then? A villager asked, eyes shifting. As soon as this was asked, a few other villagers looked at him with some disdain. His intentions were too obvious. He didn't even try to hide it, taking advantage of kids here. Feeling something was amiss after he asked, that villager quickly smirked. I'm just curious. Don't tell me you guys aren't curious. Lu Qing certainly understood what the villager meant, but he wasn't too concerned. After all, even if he didn't tell them, they would certainly go searching eventually. He couldn't hide the traces of where he had set up his fishing spot. So he straightforwardly said, just not far ahead, but I advise you not to go there now. Why not? The villager blurted out. Because that spot blew up earlier, now there aren't even small fish there, let alone big ones. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come back so soon, Lu Qing half-truthfully said. The other villagers found this reasonable. Lu Qing had caught two big fish, especially the one on the ground, which was incredibly large. Such a big fish would definitely make a lot of noise when caught. It was no wonder the other fish would have scattered. However, despite what was said, there were still villagers who held on to a glimmer of hope. For example, the villager who had asked about Lu Qing's fishing spot had already decided to sneak over there later to see exactly where Lu Qing had been fishing. Lu Qing didn't care what the villagers were thinking. After all, he had said his piece, and if others refused to believe and insisted on fishing there, he had no control over it. Moreover, even if someone did go fishing there, he didn't care. As for the small fish, they meant little to him, but the big fish. It wasn't that he looked down on the villagers, but with their skills, they simply couldn't catch a big fish. Even if they were lucky enough to hook a big fish, their fragile twine couldn't withstand the enormous impact of a big fish. After resting for a while, Lu Qing felt his strength partially return. Everyone, Little Yin and I are heading back. You all continue fishing. Having said that, he prepared to pick up the green-armored fish. Upon seeing this, Brother Dun quickly bent down and lifted the fish. Weren't you supposed to let me do this, Lu Qing? You just carry the bucket. Man, this fish is heavy, must be nearly 40 pounds. Only when he truly lifted the green armored fish did Dutton realize it was even heavier than he had anticipated. He couldn't help but glance at Lu Qing, finding it hard to imagine how Lu Qing, with his slight build, had managed to reel in such a big fish. Then thank you, Brother Dutton. When we get back, I'll treat you to fish. Lu Qing didn't refuse the help, as he was actually quite happy to accept it. That sounds great. I've never eaten such a big fish before. Brother Dutton became instantly cheerful. Watching Lu Qing and the others head toward the village, the remaining villagers looked at one another. Suddenly, one villager shouted, "Stop fishing. Let's go back to the village to see the excitement." Exactly. We've been here all morning and only caught a few small fish. Better to go back and see how Lu Qing handles the fish. I haven't had enough of those 2 big fish just now. Need to go back and take a few more looks. If, before Lu Qing's return, the villagers still had the patience to keep waiting here. Now, watching Lu Qing leave with 2 big fish, they couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. They had been guarding this spot for 2 or 3 days, yet couldn't compare to the scraps Lu Qing had gained in just a couple of hours. How was that fair? Might as well not fish at all. With their morale shattered, the villagers began packing up their things, preparing to head back to the village. Lu Qing and his group had just left, and if they hurried, they might even catch up. "Old Zhao, aren't you going back?" Everyone was packing up, but one person remained unmoved, still sitting and fishing. Seeing this, someone asked, "You guys go ahead. I'm going to fish a little longer. Maybe the fish will bite soon." Old Zhao, who had earlier inquired about Lu Qing's fishing spot, grinned. "All right, you keep fishing. But I'm telling you, this place has been fished by me for several days already. It's been cleaned out. Didn't you see how much Lu Qing disliked it here?" Initially, people didn't take Lu Qing's fishing skills seriously, thinking he caught those many small fish just by using earthworms as bait. But after seeing those 2 big fish, nobody dared to underestimate Lu Qing's fishing skills anymore. Such big fish, if it were up to them, they surely couldn't catch them. These past few days, it wasn't that nobody had tried being bitten by big fish. The result was always failure. Either the fishing line would break, or the rod would snap, not one of them able to pull up the big fish. After packing up, the villagers gradually left. Only old Zhao remained alone, calmly continuing to fish. After a while, ensuring no one else could see him, old Zhao suddenly leapt up. He hurriedly packed up his things. Idiots, all believing whatever that kid Lu Qing says. I don't believe he has fished out all the fish from that place. Saying that, he picked up his belongings and ran toward the direction Lu Qing and little Yin had gone back to. The villagers ultimately failed to catch up with Lu Qing and his 2 companions. With Brother Dutton's help, they moved quite swiftly, especially since the river was not far from the village. Thus, by the time they were still packing up by the river, Lu Qing and the others had already returned to the village. And when they arrived back in the village, it caused quite a sensation. Inevitably, the giant fish carried on Brother Dutton's back was too eye-catching, and this guy loved to flaunt it, walking right up to anyone he saw as soon as he entered the village. The others weren't blind. How could they not notice the fish he was carrying? Seeing such a large fish, exclamations were inevitable. Brother Dutton caught a big fish, such a big fish. This shout naturally drew more villagers out to see the spectacle. And indeed, it was a huge fish, frighteningly huge. That immediately stirred up excitement. "Well, you didn't catching such a big fish. Quick, tell us how you managed to catch it." "Goodness, that fish must be more than 20 pounds. Impressive, Dutton. Brother Dutton is so amazing for catching such a big fish." A crowd of villagers surrounded Dutton, touching the fish while expressing their amazement. The children were even more excited, jumping and shouting. Lu Qing watched with amusement as Brother Dutton showcased the green armored fish to everyone. This scene reminded him of his past life's fellow fishing enthusiasts who, upon occasionally catching a big fish, behaved in exactly the same boasting manner. It seemed as if they had to show off intensively, or else they'd feel they had wasted the hardship of waiting by the river. When Brother Dutton had bragged enough, Lu Qing finally called out somewhat helplessly, "All right, Brother Dutton, let's go back." After enough showing off, Brother Dutton squeezed out of the crowd and ran over to Lu Qing. "I forgot to tell you guys, I didn't catch this big fish. It was Lu Qing who did it." Lu Qing caught it. Everyone turned their attention to Lu Qing. Little Yin immediately lifted her head proudly. "Yes, this big fish was caught by my brother after a lot of effort. We have an even prettier big fish in our bucket." It really was Lu Qing who caught it? There's another big fish in the bucket? Upon hearing this, everyone hurriedly crowded around to look into the bucket Lu Qing was holding. Upon seeing the contents, everyone was stunned. The red moon carp's appearance was simply too stunning. The dazzling fiery red color was like a flame burning in the water, making it evident at first sight that this was no ordinary fish. What kind of fish is this? It's so beautiful. A fiery red fish, it's my first time seeing one. Such a beautiful fish. Where did you catch it? Lu Qing? Lu Qing, do you know what kind of fish this is? Everyone asked in one.
Nancy, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonder. I don't know what kind of fish this is either. Lu Qing shook his head. Tomorrow I plan to take it to Grandpa Chin to see if he recognizes it. Yes, Elder Chin, with his broad knowledge and experience, will definitely recognize this fish. If there was anyone in the village who commanded the villagers' respect, it was undoubtedly old Dr. Chin. Not only because most have been treated by the Elder Doctor at some point, but also because the Elder Doctor was universally recognized as the most knowledgeable person in the village. Regularly entering the city, his experiences were not something those rural folk could compare to. Everyone gathered around, fervently discussing the two large fish for a long time. After satisfying their curiosity, they finally dispersed contentedly. Lu Qing did invite everyone to his house, saying he would cook the fish for them. But who in the village didn't know his family's situation? One by one, they all declined. Even those few who were tempted to taste the big fish were quickly pulled away by others before they could speak up. Really blind to propriety, trying to take advantage of two poor orphans, aren't they afraid of being criticized? After everyone had left, Lu Qing finally picked up the bucket, and together with Little Yin and Brother Dun, returned to his own yard. Lu Qing, I'm heading back now. Just as they reached the yard, Brother Dun put down the fish, ready to leave. Lu Qing hurriedly stopped him. Don't go, Brother Dun. I promised to treat you to fish. You actually took it seriously? I was joking before. With your family's situation, if I really stayed for a meal, I would be chased away with a stick by my old man when I got home. You can't let me break my word, though. Anyway, I can't dare to stay for a meal. The two argued, but neither could convince the other. Brother Dun, you know, such big fish, my sister and I can't finish them quickly, and with the weather warming, the fish meat won't last long. If you take a couple of pieces home, it would also help lighten my load, Lu Qing earnestly said. Well, okay then. Brother Dun saw Lu Qing put it that way and hesitated a bit, but in the end, he agreed. Seeing him relent, Lu Qing immediately went to the kitchen to get a knife, ready to butcher the fish. And truly, the green-armored fish, living up to its name, had incredibly tough scales. Lu Qing exerted a lot of effort, and with the help of Brother Dun, they finally managed to scrape off the scales and then cut open the belly. After splitting the fish, apart from the swim bladder, he planned to discard the other viscera, like the intestines and liver. Food prepared from such large fish, like the green-armored fish's viscera, could be delicious. In his past life, Lu Qing had been quite fond of eating fish intestines. But given the current situation at home, barely having any condiments, he simply wasn't able to cook such strongly flavored ingredients properly, forcing Lu Qing to reluctantly give them up. After removing the viscera, Lu Qing immediately chopped out 2 large pieces of fish meat, wrapped them in banana leaves, and handed them to Brother Dun. All this, Brother Dun looked at the 2 large pieces of fish meat, astonished. These 2 pieces of fish meat weighed at least several pounds. Not much, Brother Dun, look, there's still so much fish meat here, Little Yen and I couldn't possibly finish it. Lu Qing forcefully stuffed the fish meat into Brother Dun's hands. Brother Dun glanced at the chopping board, indeed seeing a large pile of fish meat, and didn't refuse any further. Lu Qing, I think your household is the only one in the village having trouble with too much fish to eat, Brother Dun said with a laugh after taking the fish meat. After seeing Lu Qing's catch today, Brother Dun also realized that Lu Qing's household would likely not lack fish in the future. Fish can't be eaten as a staple though, Lu Qing said helplessly. One still needs to eat proper meals, but it's a pity our fields are lying fallow, and it's not yet time to plant crops. That is a problem indeed, Brother Dun nodded. He knew that due to the major upheaval the Lu family had experienced, Lu Qing had missed the planting season. It would still be several months until the next one. He thought for a moment, then suddenly his eyes lit up. Lu Qing, you're so good at fishing. Why not sell the fish you catch at the market? Once you have money, You can buy grains. Sell fish? Lu Qing was puzzled. But I remember, there are entry fees required to enter the city, and I currently have no money. I'm not talking about the city, but about going to the big market not far from our village. Big market? Lu Qing blinked. Lu Qing blinked, searching his memory for a while. He gradually began to recall the memories associated with the big trade fair. Simply put, the big trade fair was actually an exchange event spontaneously formed by several of the large villages nearby. After all, the town was distant, and entry required a fee, something many villagers and mountain people were unwilling to spend unless it was necessary. Therefore, no one knows from when or who organized it. But slowly, there was a big trade fair nearby, and villagers from around would head to the fair every 5 days to buy and sell goods. The original host once went to the fair with his parents when he was young, but ever since little Yin was born, he had taken on the task of caring for his sister and had never been to the big fair again. His memory of the big trade fair had also gradually become vague. It wasn't until Brother Dun mentioned it that Lu Qing began to recall some impressions. Brother Dun said, at the big trade fair, people from all the villages and even the mountain people occasionally come out to buy things. Your fish are so big, if you take them to sell there, as long as they're not too expensive, someone will definitely want them. In Brother Daan's view, since Lu Qing had more fish than he could eat, keeping them was just a waste. It would be better to take them to the fair to sell for cheap and at least make some money in exchange. Lu Qing thought for a moment, then nodded. Then I'll see. If I catch big fish again next time, I'll take them to the fair to see if I can sell them. You can definitely sell them. Brother Dun said happily, I've seen people selling fish at the fair, but their fish were nowhere near as big as the ones you caught today. Lu Qing smiled. Catching big fish isn't something that happens every time. It doesn't matter if you can catch them or not. If you want to go to the big fair, remember to let me know. There are some rules to pay attention to when you go to the fair, Brother Dun reminded him. Okay, if I decide to go to the fair, I'll definitely tell you, Brother Dun. Just remember that, and I'll be on my way now. After Brother Dun left, Lu Qing fell into deep thought. He had overlooked this information about the big fair. Perhaps he could start from there if he wanted to find out information about the town. Brother, when can we eat the fish? Little Yin is hungry, Little Yin called out beside him, just as Lu Qing was pondering how to gather information at the big fair. Oh, very soon. Wait for your brother to sort out the fish, and I'll cook it for you. Lu Qing snapped back to reality and quickly resumed his tasks. He chopped the remaining fish into several pieces, planning to deliver them to Old Master Zhang later. During the time he was unconscious, it was Old Master Zhang who had taken care of Little Yin, and he could not forget that kindness. After sorting the fish, Lu Qing picked out the best piece of fish. He removed all the bones cleanly, slicing the fish meat into thin pieces.
Okay, I will be back in a couple of minutes. I need to go help with something real quick. I would say maybe 5-10 minutes. So I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. Sorry about that. Had to do a bit of sweeping and mopping. So now I am back.
Then he put a pot on to boil water and started cooking porridge. As for the remaining,
Nancy, sorry, but right now I literally have no money, so I cannot buy any type of artwork or anything like that. So I'm sorry about that.
fish, he threaded them onto bamboo splints, hanging them under the eaves to dry, preparing to make dried fish. Looking at the long string of fish hanging on the bamboo pole, Lu Qing silently resolved to get an iron pot as soon as possible. Right, and some seasonings. Otherwise, his culinary skills would have no room to shine. It pained him to see such good ingredients going to waste. By the time Lu Qing had finished these tasks, the porridge in the clay pot was also boiling. First, he added some salt, stirred it a few times to ensure the salt dissolved. Then he carefully placed the fish slices into the porridge, watching them turn white before immediately turning off the heat. Finally, he added a small spoonful of lard to the porridge, and it was done to perfection. Lu Qing first scooped a bowl of fish porridge for Little Yin, fanned it to cool it down a bit, then set it in front of her. Little Yin, wait a bit longer. It's still very hot. Little Yin understands. Although the little one was drooling with anticipation, she obediently agreed. Her eyes, however, remained fixed on the fish porridge. Seeing this, Lu Qing smiled and then ladled himself a bowl of porridge as well. Relying on his tough skin, he scooped a spoonful of porridge with fish slices, blew on it a few times, and put it into his mouth. As soon as the fish entered his mouth, he felt a burst of umami rushing to his taste buds, and his face lit up with surprise. This fish, tender and fragrant, also had a faint aroma of fat which was unexpectedly delicious. Indeed, high-end ingredients often only needed the simplest cooking methods. He had only added a little salt oil to this fish porridge, not even green onions, and it was already this tasty, deserving of being a premium fish that could emit a rich white light. A single spoonful of porridge immediately filled Lu Qing with a sense of complete satisfaction. Brother, can Little Yin eat now? Seeing her brother enjoying his food so much, Little Yin couldn't help but gaze at him with longing eyes. Lu Qing reached out to touch her bowl, felt it was not too hot, and nodded. You can eat now, but still be careful not to burn your tongue. Little Yin will be careful. Upon hearing she could eat, the little one immediately perked up with joy. She spooned some porridge and carefully followed Lu Qing's earlier actions, cautiously blowing on it. Once it felt cool enough, she put the porridge in her mouth. Then, after eating a spoonful of porridge, her eyes suddenly widened. Brother, the big fish's porridge is so tasty, even tastier than this morning's shrimp porridge. The little one danced around excitedly, clearly overjoyed. That's because you didn't see how hard your brother worked to catch this big fish. Of course, it's delicious, Lu Qing said with a proud expression. Brother is the best. The little one showered him with praise, not skimping on the compliments. If it's tasty, then eat more. Grandpa Chen said that if you want beautiful hair, you need to eat well. Little Yin will try hard to eat. Little Yin wants to grow beautiful hair. The little one nodded vigorously, serious and earnest. Seeing this, Lu Qing felt a slight pang in his heart. The day before yesterday, when the little one was playing outside, she was mocked by other village kids for having ugly hair. When she came back, she asked him a bit grievously how she could grow beautiful hair. Lu Qing, of course, knew that Little Yan's hair was this way largely because of malnutrition. He told the little one to obediently eat well and that after nourishing her body, her hair would soon become beautiful. So now, every time Little Yin ate anything, she took it very seriously, not willing to waste a single bit. Although, they never really had the luxury to waste anything. After enjoying their fish porridge, both siblings sat contentedly slumped in their chairs. Even Lu Qing had not anticipated that the green armored fish's meat would be so tender and fresh. It was a delightful surprise. He couldn't help but think, if the green armored fish was this tasty, what would the red moon carp, hailed as an extremely fresh delicacy by those with superpowers, taste like? Unfortunately, the red moon carp was a gift he had prepared for old Dr. Chen and could not be eaten. After resting for a while, Lu Qing stood up and headed to the kitchen. He still had one more task to complete. The green armored fish's fish stone still needed to be taken care of. The green armored fish's fish stone had not been retrieved by Lu Qing in front of Brother Dun. Instead, it had remained inside the body of the green armored fish. It wasn't that he was stingy and unwilling to show it to others, but rather it was difficult for him to explain what it was. Now that no one was disturbing him, it was the perfect opportunity to take the fish stone. He went to the kitchen, where the large fish head of the green armored fish was placed in a wooden basin. Lu Qing broke open the fish head and found the fish stone at the throat. However, when he saw the appearance of the fish stone, Lu Qing was very surprised. In his previous life, Lu Qing had caught a large green fish weighing over 40 pounds and also obtained a very nice fish stone. But when he had retrieved that fish stone, it had been slightly gelatinous. After it was taken out, it needed cleaning, air drying, and other treatments before he finally got a good-looking fish stone. Now, he touched the fish stone from the throat of the green armored fish and found that it wasn't soft at all. It had already hardened. Lu Qing found a small wooden spoon and carefully dug out the fish stone. After cleaning it with water and drying it off, upon closer examination, he was even more amazed. The fish stone, 2 centimeters in size and half a centimeter thick, was shaped like a scallop. Its texture was both stony and jade-like, smooth and warm to the touch, feeling very nice in hand. Its quality was much better than the one he had carefully maintained in his previous life. Gently playing with the jade-like fish stone in his hand, Lu Qing felt a sense of calm in his heart and spirit. He knew this was not an illusion, because in his vision, the fish stone in his hand was radiating a dense white light. Green armor fish stone, a complete fish stone nurtured by an adult green armored fish, already jadized. Legend has it that jadized level green armor fish stones, when carried close to the body, have the effect of soothing the soul and stabilizing the mind. After playing with it for a while, Lu Qing found that the quality of this fish stone was practically perfect. It required no additional polishing and could be worn directly. He found some tools and carefully drilled a hole in the thinner end of the fish stone. Fortunately, although the green armor fish stone had jadized, it wasn't as hard as other jade. He didn't spend much effort and managed to make a perfect hole. After drilling the hole, he took out the remaining string and twisted it into a sturdy rope, threading it through the fish stone. After being busy with these tasks, he had created a simple fish stone pendant. After admiring his own work for a while, Lu Qing called little Yin, who was playing in the yard, inside. "Brother, what do you need little Yin for?" The little one scampered into the house. "Brother made something nice, and I want to give it to you." Lu Qing held the pendant in his hand. "What is it?" Little Yan's eyes lit up. "It's this." Lu Qing pinched the rope, and letting go slightly, the fish stone dangled in mid-air, swaying. "Wow, what is that?" "It's so pretty." The little one's eyes instantly widened as she stared at the pendant. "This is a pendant. I made it from the fish stone found in the big fish's body. From now on, wear it close to you, and it will keep you from kicking your covers off at night." Lu Qing loosened the rope and hung the pendant around little Yan's neck, then tied the rope tight. He tied the loop small enough that the little one couldn't take the pendant off over her head, preventing her from carelessly losing it. "Thank you, brother. Little Yin really loves this gift." The little one bowed her head to play with the pendant on her neck, utterly delighted. It was her first piece of jewelry that belonged solely to her, and it was such a beautiful stone at that. Young children generally can't resist beautiful, attractive stones. The more little Yin looked at the pendant on her neck, the more she loved it. "If you like it, just keep it safe and don't lose it. Otherwise, brother can't fish another big fish for you to eat." Lu Qing warned little Yin as she clung to the pendant affectionately. "I know. I will protect it well," little Yin said with a serious face. Seeing that the little one took his words to heart, Lu Qing left her to continue playing. Then he went back to the kitchen to prepare the big fish head. For dinner, the siblings had a feast of fish head. Lu Qing cooked half of the big fish head by grilling and the other half by boiling into a soup. The two of them ate to their heart's content. "Brother, the big fish is really delicious," little Yin said as she lay in her own small bed, touching her still somewhat full belly, before going to sleep for the night. "As long as little Yin is good, brother will make you more delicious food in the future," Lu Qing responded as he tugged at the corner of her blanket. Little Yin used to sleep in the same room as their parents, but after they were gone, she often cried at night. The original owner then moved her small bed into his own room, and little Yin was able to sleep more peacefully. "Aha, little Yin will be very good." The little one touched the pendant around her neck and nodded earnestly. Then go to sleep early. We need to go to Grandpa Chen's place tomorrow. Uh-huh. Little Yin misses Grandpa Chen too, she said, slowly feeling her eyelids grow heavier, and soon she was sound asleep. Lu Qing affectionately covered her with a thin quilt. The little one was quite tired today. She had gone fishing with him and had helped carry the fishing rod. After coming back, she had played in the yard for most of the day. It was already quite good that she only started to feel sleepy now. After making sure the little one was asleep, Lu Qing then lay down on his own bed. Listening to little Yan's faint breathing, Lu Qing couldn't fall asleep immediately. He was thinking about tomorrow. Tomorrow was his day to get acupuncture at old Dr. Chen's. According to the elder doctor's previous promise, starting tomorrow, each acupuncture session would be followed by an hour during which he could learn how to identify medicinal herbs with the elder doctor. Identifying herbs was secondary. With superpower assistance, Lu Qing wasn't worried about his ability to learn. What he needed to think about was how to use this opportunity to gain Elder Chen's favor and approval. There was also what Brother Dutton had mentioned today about the bazaar. He needed to think carefully about that too. After these past few days of consumption, they had eaten quite a bit of the grain they borrowed from home. More importantly, there wasn't much salt and oil left. In a few days, they would run out. So he had to find a way to earn money quickly. Now wasn't the farming season, so he couldn't count on crop yield for the time being. Moreover, he didn't even have the money to buy seeds. He could only look elsewhere for opportunities. The bazaar could be a good option. It was just unclear what exactly this bazaar was like. Considering the rules Brother Doan stressed at noon, it seemed they had some special regulations to follow. Various thoughts swirled in Lu Qing's mind, and as he thought, his eyelids grew heavier. Eventually, he couldn't resist sleep any longer. The room was quiet as the siblings both slept deeply. Outside, the night wind was cool, and the sky was full of stars. Suddenly, a black figure gracefully jumped into the yard and glanced towards the fish meat hanging under the eaves. That night, Lu Qing slept especially soundly, not even dreaming. Little Yin didn't wake up in the middle of the night as usual, calling for his comfort. Both siblings had a good rest. In fact, Lu Qing slept so deeply that in the morning, it was Little Yin who had to call him to get up. Rubbing his sleepy eyes while dressing Little Yin, he helped her brush her teeth and wash her face, casually tying her hair into 2 little tufts before he began his own ablutions. Brushing his teeth absent-mindedly with a willow twig brush, Lu Qing's gaze lacked focus, casually drifting around the room. After brushing for a while, he suddenly sensed something amiss and his gaze began to sharpen. He stepped forward and looked at the 2 bamboo rings on the pole, now empty, and his eyes gradually widened. What scoundrel had stolen his 2 large pieces of fish meat? Someone from the village? That was the first thought that crossed Lu Qing's mind, but he quickly dismissed it. Although the villagers weren't wealthy, none were poor to the point of needing to steal 2 pieces of fish meat. He had offered to treat everyone to fish just yesterday, and everyone had declined. Moreover, if someone really wanted to steal, wouldn't they have taken the whole pot, rather than just 2 pieces? More importantly, he noticed there were still some bits of fish meat left on the 2 bamboo rings. Clearly, the 2 pieces of fish meat had been forcefully yanked away. What kind of thief would make such a ruckus while stealing, almost as if they wanted to alert others? Unfortunately, he had slept so soundly the night before that he hadn't noticed any activity outside. Lu Qing searched the area carefully and eventually found several mud prints on the wall, resembling plum blossoms. Each print had several tiny holes in it. Similar prints were also found on the ground. He stared quietly at these mud prints. Before long, he saw a faint white light emanating from them. White light. Lu Qing was slightly startled. He quickly looked at the 2 words that appeared. Mud footprints. Judging by their shape, they seemed to belong to a mysterious little beast. Looking at the small holes on the footprints, this is a creature with sharp claws. Reading the descriptions, a scene instantly formed in Lu Qing's mind. A mysterious and nimble unknown little beast, pushing off with its feet against the wall, lunging at the fish meat on the pole and violently tearing it down. What could it be? A cat? On that note, are there cats in this world? Lu Qing pondered the question. He certainly hadn't seen any cats in the village or heard of anyone keeping one. Nevertheless, now that he had determined it was not a human thief, that was the end of it. Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief. If a villager had come to steal, it wouldn't have been good news for him. Fortunately, it was just a wild animal, and judging by its footprints, it wasn't large. Behind the village where he lived, not far from the mountains, it was only natural for wild animals to occasionally venture down. However, it seemed he would have to be more cautious and make sure to secure the doors and windows before sleeping. Otherwise, if some wild animal slipped in at night and hurt little Yin, that would be terrible. Having figured out what had happened, Lu Qing didn't care much about it anymore. After all, he couldn't exactly argue with a wild animal. He just had to make sure to secure things after nightfall. Thinking of this, Lu Qing suddenly remembered something, his eyes widened, and he hurried to the kitchen. After a while, he came out with a relieved face. Thankfully, he had kept the red moon carp in a wooden basin and had placed it in the kitchen last night. In order to prevent the fish from jumping out, he had covered the wooden basin tightly with a wooden board and stones. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to ensure that it wouldn't have been snatched away by that wild animal. After this incident, Lu Qing had completely woken up. He didn't tell little Yin about this matter, but simply went to make breakfast. After the siblings had eaten, they took the red moon carp in a bucket and walked towards where old Dr. Chen lived. This time, when going to old Dr. Chen's place, Lu Qing deliberately delayed a bit before heading over. Because he was afraid if he went too early and ran into the elder doctor practicing his boxing, he would not be able to resist using his superpower to mimic the elder's cultivation technique. The elder doctor was so kind to them, siblings, he couldn't do such ungrateful things. So he simply eliminated this possibility and also avoided testing his own moral bottom line. Lu Qing's strategy proved to be very effective. When he and little Yin arrived at the half-mountain small courtyard, they saw old Dr. Chen slowly finishing his form, evidently just having finished his boxing practice. "Grandpa Chen, we've come to see you." Little Yin ran up happily upon seeing the elder doctor. "Oh, little Yin is here." Old Dr. Chen picked her up in a hug upon seeing her run over, his old face blooming like a chrysanthemum. "Good morning, Grandpa Chen." Lu Qing also came forward to greet him. "You're here? Why are you later than last time?" asked old Dr. Chen. "Because my brother overslept." Little Yin giggled. This morning, it was little Yin who had to wake him up. Lu Qing's face turned slightly red. "I fished by the river all morning yesterday, and I was a bit tired, so I slept more deeply." "Sleeping more is good." Old Dr. Chen nodded. "You're at the age where you're growing, so ample rest is necessary." The elder doctor looked at Lu Qing and little Yan's complexions, which had significantly improved compared to a few days ago. Knowing that they had been doing well these past few days, he felt quite satisfied in his heart. "Grandpa Chen, yesterday when my brother and I went fishing, he caught a really big fish." At that moment, little Yin began to brag to the elder doctor. "Oh, how big?" Old Dr. Chen asked with a smile. "So big, as big as little Yin." The little girl gestured with all her might. "That big?" Old Dr. Chen became a bit surprised. He had thought that the big fish little Yin talked about would at most be 2 or 3 pounds, but if it truly was as she mentioned, it would far exceed that. Yeah, not only is that big fish tasty, but it also has very beautiful stones on its body. My brother made it into a pendant and gave it to little Yin." "Grandpa Chen, look, this is it, isn't it pretty?" Little Yin pulled out the fish stone pendant from her neck and showed it to old Dr. Chen. "Is this a green armored fish stone?" Old Dr. Chen became even more surprised after getting a clear look at the pendant around little Yan's neck. Hearing him, Lu Qing's heart stirred, and he feigned surprise as well. "Master Chen, you recognize this stone?" "How so? Do you not know?" Old Dr. Chen inquired. "No, I don't." Lu Qing shook his head. "I found this stone in the fish's throat when I was killing it. It looked nice, so I made it into a pendant for little Yin to wear." "Then you were quite lucky. This fish stone is indeed a rarity, and you just happened to come across it." Old Dr. Chen picked up the pendant and examined it for a moment. "The big fish you caught must be a green armored fish, and what's more, an old fish that has lived for quite some years. Otherwise, it wouldn't have bred such a high-quality fish stone. Once this green armor fish stone undergoes jadization, it will have a rather magical function. It can soothe the heart and spirit. Moreover, it's also a rare medicinal ingredient. Its powdered form mixed with water and consumed can calm a frightened child. By the way, where did you catch this green armored fish?" "Just beyond the village in the river. Yesterday little Yin and I went fishing and happened to catch it," Lu Qing answered. "Elder Chen, there's actually a green armored fish of such an age in that little river?" Old Dr. Chen was somewhat surprised. The river outside the village wasn't large, yet a green armored fish had grown to this size was truly rare. However, he then recalled that the few villages nearby didn't seem to live off fishing. Perhaps that was why the green armored fish had managed to grow so big. "No wonder you said you felt you had a talent for fishing before, capable of nurturing such a fish stone." The size of that green armored fish couldn't have been small, yet you were able to catch it? Old Dr. Chen looked at Lu Qing's somewhat frail body and couldn't help but admire him. This is all thanks to the line you gave me, Grandpa Chen, Lu Qing said humbly. Grandpa Chen, that line is truly extraordinarily tough. Without it, I really wouldn't have been able to pull in this big fish. It's good that it was useful. That thing was pointless to keep around for me anyway. Old Dr. Chen waved his hand, not particularly concerned about it. On the contrary, he was quite interested in the bucket that Lu Qing had been carrying around. What have you got in your bucket? Seems quite heavy. Because Lu Qing had put some branches and leaves into the bucket when he left, to keep the fish from getting too frightened, old Dr. Chen couldn't clearly see what was inside for the moment. Inside it is something I wanted to give to Master Chen. Lu Qing started to remove the branches and leaves from the bucket. Yesterday, when Little Yin and I went fishing, we caught 2 big fish. We ate the larger of the green armored fish, and the smaller one, I thought I'd give to Master Chen to try. Right, Master Chen, this fish is so pretty. So pretty, Grandpa Zhang and the others didn't even recognize what kind of fish it was. Little Yin also chimed in. Oh, such a thoughtful gesture. I'd like to see what kind of fish it is then. Old Dr. Chen's interest was piqued even more. It's this fish. Lu Qing finished clearing the branches and leaves from the bucket, handing it over to the elder doctor. The elder doctor looked into the bucket, and upon seeing the flame-like fish, was first shocked, then somewhat moved. He blurted out, This is a red moon carp? The elder doctor indeed recognized the fish. Ideas swirled in Lu Qing's mind, though his face showed confusion. Grandpa Chen, you know what this fish is? Elder Chen put down Little Yin and leaned forward to play with the fish in the bucket, scrutinizing it carefully for a while. Undoubtedly, this is a red moon carp. Elder Chen's look toward Lu Qing was filled with genuine astonishment. You were even able to catch a strange fish like a red moon carp? Master Chen, what is a red moon carp? Little Yin asked, puzzled. This red moon carp, it's quite something. Seeing that both Lu Qing and Little Yin were clueless, old Dr. Chen simply began to explain. A red moon carp is a kind of strange fish, and in this world, any fish that can be called a strange fish has its own special attributes. The red moon carp is known for its exquisite taste. In legend, its flavor is unparalleled, and once eaten, it's unforgettable. Hence, some aficionados dubbed it one of the top 10 delicacies in the world. One of the top 10 delicacies in the world? This time it was Lu Qing's turn to be astonished. He had not expected the red moon carp to be so renowned, truly worthy of being evaluated as an extremely fresh delicacy by those with superpower. The big red fish is that impressive? Little Yin also appeared stunned. Then, Master Chen, have you eaten a big red fish? I, Grandpa Chen, once had the fortune to taste this red moon carp at a noble's banquet. The flavor. Old Dr. Chen didn't finish his sentence, but even Little Yin could discern the reminiscent look on his face. Then this red moon carp could not be more perfect as a gift from Master Chen, Lu Qing said. I can't accept this gift. Chen snapped back to reality. Do you have any idea how much money a red moon carp could fetch if sold in the city? Lu Qing shook his head. 100 taels of silver. Old Dr. Chen held up a finger, and seeing the shock on Lu Qing's face, he continued. A red moon carp of the highest quality could sell for at least 100 patterned taels of silver. A fish worth 100 taels of silver? Lu Qing gasped. He knew well the purchasing power of silver in this world. A single tael of silver could provide a modest family of 3 with enough to live on for a month. And to the best of his memory, even at its wealthiest, the Lu family did not possess 10 taels of silver in ready cash. Now one fish was worth 100 taels. It was truly more than he had ever expected. The key point was, this was only a strange fish with a hint of red light shining within the white. What then of a true red light level spirit fish? This world is vast, Lu Qing. Old Dr. Chen sighed somewhat. The daily expenses of those nobles are beyond common people's imagination. Do you know how much a noble might spend on a single banquet? Lu Qing shook his head again. At least 1,000 taels of silver, and if the event is to host distinguished guests, the cost becomes unfathomable. This red moon carp is a rare delicacy. Those nobles, not short on money, wouldn't balk at spending a mere 100 taels of silver for such a treat. Lu Qing's mouth was slightly agape. Half of his expression was feigned surprise, and the other half was indeed a bit astonished. True enough, in any world, the extravagance of the rich could be quite staggering. So, what do you think? Do you still want to give this red moon carp to this old man? Old Dr. Chen, observing the disbelief on Lu Qing's face, teased him. Lu Qing came back to his senses, hesitated for a moment, then nodded resolutely. Give it away, of course. Compared to the life-saving grace of Grandpa Chin, what's 100 silver taels? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even be standing here, let alone catching this red moon carp. Ha 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 ha. Old Dr. Chin suddenly burst into hearty laughter. After laughing for a while, he stopped and said with gratification on his face, "It's enough for me to know you have this intention, young man. But I really can't accept this red moon carp. Such a precious fish is too much of a waste for me to eat." But Grandpa Chun, Lu Qing wanted to say more, but old Dr. Chin raised his hand, interrupting him. "All right, it's settled then. You leave the fish with me, and in a couple of days, I'll take it to town and sell it for silver, which you can take home for expenses." Lu Qing's mouth opened, but in the end, he did not insist, only saying, "That's fine. But Grandpa Chin, the money from selling the fish should first go to covering your previous medical fees." Agreed. Old Dr. Chin nodded. Yet, he did not tell Lu Qing that the decoction he had previously prescribed alone had its precious ingredients worth no less than the red moon carp. That's because the elder doctor could see that Lu Qing was a very proud young man. If he knew the value of that decoction, he would probably refuse to take any money from the sale of the red moon carp. Old Dr. Chin looked at the red moon carp in the bucket again. Then he frowned. "It's a pity, though this red moon carp has fine quality. It's a bit too large and probably won't fetch 100 silver taels. Its value must be somewhat reduced." "Why is that, Grandpa Chin? Aren't bigger fish better?" Little Yin asked, not understanding. "Generally speaking, that's true, but the red moon carp is different," Old Dr. Chin explained. "The most valuable part of the red moon carp is its freshness, and it's usually when they reach around 2 pounds that they are the freshest and most tender. Anything heavier, even if it retains its freshness, the flesh is slightly tougher, and naturally, its value isn't as high." Lu Qing could understand this. It was like some seafood from his previous life, where bigger isn't always pricier. Rather, when smaller, the price per unit was higher. "No matter the value, it's all down to Grandpa Chen's effort," said Lu Qing. Regardless of how valuable the red moon carp was, Lu Qing had no way to sell it. He believed that if he dared to appear in town with such a strange fish, even if he could sell it for money, he might not be able to leave the town. Maybe only a cultivation practitioner like old Dr. Chin would be entitled to involve oneself in such trade. By the way, the red moon carp has always been rare, and its habits elusive, fond of solitude, and its tracks hardly seen. "How did you manage to catch it?" Old Dr. Chin asked curiously. "Maybe it was luck. After I caught that green armored fish yesterday, I fished for a while longer and just happened to catch this red moon carp," answered Lu Qing. His heart, however, stirred slightly. Elusive habits. So even the elder doctor didn't know that red moon carps like blood apricots? If that's the case, it really is fortune on your side. Old Dr. Chin sighed somewhat. Perhaps the heavens see the hardship you and your sister have been through, and thus granted you these blessings. The elder doctor recalled Lu Qing's illness that had suddenly improved. Maybe the sudden recovery from Lu Qing's illness was also for this reason? After pondering for a while, old Dr. Chin placed the red moon carp in a water tank in the house to keep it for the time being, then went to give Lu Qing acupuncture. This time, after the acupuncture was finished, Lu Qing's sleep was shorter than the last. Upon awakening, he saw the elder doctor still chatting and laughing with little Yin in the yard, with yam cake still on the stone table. "Woke up, have you? Come, have something to eat first." Old Dr. Chin saw Lu Qing come out and push the cakes on the table towards him. This time Lu Qing did not refuse, picking up a piece of cake and eating it slowly. Old Dr. Chin observed Lu Qing's complexion for a moment, then nodded. "Not bad. It seems you have heeded my advice these past few days and have not skimped on food and drink. Grandpa Chin, my brother and I have been eating delicious food these days. Brother makes really tasty dishes." Little Yin boasted proudly at the side. I can tell," the elder doctor said, affectionately patting the little one's head. With his medical skill, how could he not notice that the complexions of the siblings had improved greatly compared to a few days ago? After Lu Qing ate a few pieces of cake, old Dr. Chin leisurely said, "I mentioned before that after this round of acupuncture, I would allow you to learn about herbs for an hour. You remember, don't you?" Lu Qing immediately sat up straight and said solemnly, "Lu Qing certainly remembers. Do you still possess a desire to learn about medicinal herbs now?" "Of course, my interest in herbs has never waned." "That's good." Old Dr. Chin smiled. "I was worried that after you caught a red moon carp and were about to possess a large sum of money, you would no longer want to take the path of gathering herbs. Lu Qing wants to study medicinal herbs not just for a living, but out of pure curiosity about the various magical herbs and wanting to understand how they cure diseases and save people, Lu Qing earnestly stated. In that case, come with me. Old Dr. Chen rose and walked towards the house. Lu Qing quickly followed. Once inside the house, old Dr. Chen took out a book and handed it to Lu Qing. Here's 100 herbs scripture that contains the names, illustrations, and growing habits of various medicinal herbs. Take it and study it well. Compare it to the herbs being sun-dried outside in the courtyard, and if there's anything you don't understand, come and ask me. Lu Qing was stunned as he held the book. Grandpa Chun, didn't you say I would help you sun-dry the herbs while learning from you? Now he was being handed a medical scripture directly. Lu Qing knew that in this world, books were very precious. Firstly, paper was expensive. Secondly, ink was expensive too. The original host's grandfather, when he had fled disaster in the past, had taken nothing else but a few books. Unfortunately, during the escape, the books were lost. As a result, the original host often heard Grandpa Lu deeply sighing that the loss of those ancient family books was his greatest failure to his ancestors. Later, due to the family's poverty, they couldn't afford paper and ink, which meant Grandpa Lu had never managed to revise those ancient family books. Even the original host had only recognized a few characters and was very shallow in writing. What's wrong? Aren't you happy? Elder Dr. Chen asked. Of course I'm happy, Lu Qing hastily replied. He was well aware of the preciousness of knowledge in this world. That's fine then. You can start learning now. Seeing that the elder doctor had said so, Lu Qing could only take the book and return to the courtyard. After instructing little Yin with a few words, he walked to a quiet spot and opened the book. However, after casually browsing through a few pages, Lu Qing couldn't help but frown. Because, in the 100 herbs scripture, many of the names of the medicinal herbs were very strange, and the characters were obscure. The original owner of the body didn't know many characters to begin with. Though he had the memories of his past life, the characters of the two worlds were different. Some characters, even he didn't recognize. This made reading the 100 herbs scripture quite difficult. At this rate, he didn't know when he'd be able to master the knowledge within. Lu Qing knew himself well. He was not an extremely intelligent person, nor did he have the ability to read 10 lines at a glance and understand everything immediately. In his previous life, he was just an average person with a normal IQ, who, despite studying hard, only just managed to get into an ordinary university. So, to learn the 100 herbs scripture sooner, he estimated he'd have to apply the same effort he had for the college entrance examination. After giving himself a pep talk, Lu Qing continued to read. Then, as he read on, the scripture in front of him suddenly emitted a hazy white glow. 100 herbs scripture, a book that contains knowledge of many herbs. Mastering this book might give you a rough understanding of the herbs in the world. Would you like to download? The first 2 notifications were fine, but when the third appeared, Lu Qing was completely stunned. Do you want to download? When Lu Qing saw this message, he was stunned. He then smiled. His superpower could really surprise people at unexpected times. He had been worrying about how to digest the 100 herbs scripture, but he didn't expect a pillow to come his way so quickly. Without hesitation, Lu Qing chose to download. Downloading, current progress, 1%. Lu Qing waited quietly, but after a while, he did not see the progress bar move. He was taken aback, thought for a moment, then picked up the 100 herbs scripture and began to slowly flip through it from the beginning. Sure enough, as he flipped through the book, the download progress bar also began to move. 1%, 2%, 3%. 98%, 99%, 100% 100 herbs scripture download complete. Do you want to start learning? By the time Lu Qing had flipped through the entire 100 herbs scripture, his superpower indicated that the download was complete. At the same time, a new message popped up. Lu Qing immediately chose to learn. The next moment, a flood of information surged through his mind, like an enlightening baptism, swiftly committing the contents of 100 herbs scripture to memory. From the outside, Lu Qing simply appeared to be zoning out with a book, unaware of the changes happening in his mind. This path of herbal medicine is indeed vast and profound. After some time, Lu Qing came back to his senses, his face showing wonder. At this point, he had memorized the entire 100 herbs scripture, and he had gained a basic understanding of its contents. He could now recite the names and properties of the various herbs detailed in the book by heart. Of course, this understanding was still theoretical. Next, he would need to compare what he learned with actual herbs to truly master the 100 Herbs scripture. However, this round of memorization alone had made Lu Qing realize the profoundness of the path of herbal medicine. The 100 Herbs scripture recorded hundreds of herbs, which is but a fraction of the herbs in the world. The combination of these herbs could create various formulas to heal and treat illnesses, truly miraculous. With the marvels of herbal medicine revealed, Lu Qing's interest intensified. Although he had memorized the whole book, he continued to flip through the 100 Herbs scripture, seeking to gain new insights from reviewing what he knew. Old Dr. Chun had been inside the house all this time, waiting for Lu Qing to seek his guidance. After waiting for a long time and still not seeing Lu Qing come in, he decided to go out into the courtyard to see what was happening. He then saw Lu Qing engrossed in the 100 Herbs scripture. Little Yin was on the other hand, was catching butterflies in another corner, not bothering her brother. The elder doctor felt a secret relief upon seeing this. It seemed that Lu Qing's interest in herbal medicine wasn't just talk. Otherwise, how could he be so engrossed in a dry book like the 100 Herbs scripture? However, the 100 Herbs scripture is not so easy to understand. Just as Elder Chen was about to ask Lu Qing if there was anything he didn't understand, suddenly, several anxious shouts came from outside the courtyard. Elder Dr. Chen, are you at home? Elder Dr. Chen? I'm here. Elder Chen heard the panic in the outside voice and hurried out to meet them. Lu Qing was also startled and stood up with his book in hand. Immediately afterward, he saw several villagers carrying an unconscious man in, as Elder Dr. Chen directed them to place the person in the center of the courtyard. Lu Qing recognized the unconscious man at a glance, as he too was a villager, someone he should address as Uncle Zhao. At that moment, Uncle Zhao was completely drenched, his face a ghastly shade of blue, his abdomen swollen, already deep in a coma. Come on, you all back off. Let me take a look. After having the man laid down, Elder Dr. Chen waved to clear the villagers away. No one dared to defy Elder Dr. Chen's words, so they immediately stood far away. One of them happened to retreat in front of Lu Qing. Lu Qing gently tapped his shoulder. Brother done. The villager jumped with fright, turned his head, saw it was Lu Qing, and was immediately surprised. Lu Qing, what are you doing here? Never mind that for now, Lu Qing said softly. What happened to Uncle Zhao? He fell into the water. If we hadn't been nearby, he probably would have been washed away by the river, Dun replied. How did he end up in the water? Lu Qing was astonished. Don't you all usually fish together? Today he didn't join us. Instead, he went to another place to fish alone. Where? Diane's expression became somewhat uneasy. He glanced around and whispered, It should be the same place where you caught the big fish yesterday. Lu Qing fell silent for a moment before saying, But that shouldn't have led to falling in the water. I fixed that spot to be quite even. I don't know about that. We only heard his cries for help, and by the time we got there, he was already in the river, swept far away, nearly sinking. As Dian recounted the events, he suddenly seemed to remember something, adding, Right, when we rescued old Zhao, he was still tightly clutching his fishing rod, though the line had long since broken. Lu Qing fell silent again, an assumption suddenly forming in his heart. However, he still asked, Does Uncle Zhao not know how to swim? No, he doesn't. If he could swim, how could he have drowned? The current wasn't even strong where he fell in. Lu Qing was speechless. Failing to swim, yet going alone to fish by the river, even daring to wade into the water to grab the rod, Uncle Zhao was far too careless. With many years of fishing experience, Lu Qing had pretty much guessed the reason for Uncle Zhao's fall into the water, but whether that was indeed the case would have to wait until he regained consciousness to know for sure. Lu Qing looked towards the center of the courtyard. By this time, old Dr. Chen had also learned from other villagers that old Zhao's coma was caused by falling into the water. He immediately pried open old Zhao's mouth to check whether there was any foreign object blocking it. After confirming there were no obstructions, he immediately placed his hands on old Zhao's chest and abdomen. No one knew what technique he used, but with a gentle press of his hands, in the next instant, old Zhao spat out a large mouthful of murky water. Then Elder Dr. Chun pressed again, and old Zhao spat out another mouthful of murky water. Just like that, Elder Dr. Chun continued pressing, and with each press, old Zhao would spit out a mouthful of murky water. After 7 or 8 presses, the murky water he spat out dwindled, and by a dozen or so presses, old Zhao who had been unconscious all this time, suddenly coughed a few times and slowly opened his eyes. He's awake, he's awake. Old Zhao is alive. Elder Dr. Chen is truly amazing. The villagers shouted in surprise and joy. They were profoundly impressed by old Dr. Chen's medical skill. When they had carried old Zhao in, they saw his chest was almost not moving and feared that he might have been lost. But Elder Dr. Chen, with his miraculous skills, managed to revive him. Old Zhao coughed for a while and then slowly regained consciousness. He looked around at the people with a somewhat bewildered gaze. Where am I? Where am I? Old Zhao woke and looked around at the people, asking somewhat bewilderedly, Old Zhao, have you forgotten? You fell into the water, nearly drowned, and we rescued you. Exactly. We heard your cries for help, and when we arrived, you were almost fully submerged. If it weren't for old Dr. Chen's excellent medical skills, you'd be meeting your old dad by now. How did you end up in the water? Were you pulled in by a fish? Amidst the villagers' clamorous questions, old Zhao finally began to remember some of what had happened. Then it hit him, right? The fish. Where's my fishing rod? You're still thinking about your fishing rod? When we saved you, you were clinging onto it for dear life. It was such a hassle we chucked it on the riverbank, a villager responded. Ouch, how could you just throw my rod away? Where did you throw it? Old Zhao became anxious. Now the villager was displeased. What's with that? Old Zhao? We went out of our way to save you, and you haven't even thanked us yet. Instead, you're blaming us? That's right. Had we known, we wouldn't have saved you. Maybe just let you drown. Ungrateful. After we bothered to drag you out of the river and even made the effort to carry you to the elder doctor's place. The other villagers also became discontented. Well, I was just worried about my fishing rod. I did put a lot of effort into making it. Don't take it the wrong way, and thank you all for saving me. He hastily expressed his gratitude, realizing his fault. The villagers had their pride but a soft heart. Seeing old Zhao apologize, their expressions softened somewhat. All right, stop fussing over your broken rod. You should hurry up and tell us how you ended up in the water. I remember you never wade into the river, another villager pressed. I jumped in myself, old Zhao muttered, then finally came clean. You jumped in yourself? A villager incredulously asked. Don't you know you can't swim? How could you dare jump into the river? How was I to know the water would be that deep? I thought it would at most reach my thighs, old Zhao defended himself. But why would you jump into the river? Well, that's because. Hesitating for a moment, old Zhao confessed, in a moment of carelessness, a fish pulled away my rod. My head got hot, and I wanted to back my rod, so I just jumped in. Not far away, Lu Qing. Just as expected. When Dylan recounted the incident earlier, he had guessed that old Zhao had fallen in while trying to grab his fishing rod. He had seen such incidents too many times in his past life. He had even done the same himself. But he hadn't expected that old Zhao, not even knowing how to swim, would be so reckless. You're such a fool. The other villagers had not anticipated that old Zhao could have nearly lost his life for such a reason. That rotten fishing rod isn't worth much. Just go up the mountain, chop down a bamboo, and you could make another one easily. For that thing, you nearly threw your life away. Have you been goaded by a pig? A villager who was on good terms with old Zhao immediately began to scold him. Old Zhao dared not speak. He dared even less to admit that when he jumped in, it wasn't just because he was fond of the fishing rod. More so, he couldn't bear to let go of the big fish that had bitten the bait and could easily drag away his rod. He had coveted the 2 big fish that Lu Qing caught yesterday, green with envy. Such big fish that could be eaten for several meals. Now that he finally had the chance to catch a big fish himself, how could he let it slip away? However, this incident confirmed for him that there indeed were big fish at that spot. Next time, as long as he was more careful, he would surely catch one. The villagers didn't know old Zhao's thoughts, or they would have scolded him thoroughly. At this moment, old Zhao tried to stand up but found himself weak and powerless, unable to exert any strength, with his head also feeling heavy and dizzy, unable to move his body properly. He was suddenly alarmed. Old Dr. Chen, what's wrong with me? Why can't I move? Old Dr. Chen sighed. You were in the water too long. The cold has seeped into your body, and you drank a lot of the contaminated river water, damaging your internal organs. You even stopped breathing for quite a while. Although I've expelled the contaminated water from inside you and awakened you, your body has sustained injuries. What should I do then? Elder Doctor, you must save me. Save me. Upon hearing this, old Zhao was utterly terrified and pleaded desperately. The thought of catching a big fish had long since been cast away. Don't be anxious. I am a doctor, and of course, I will treat you. the elder doctor said soothingly. However, you are not young anymore, and your body won't recover as easily. You must rest and recuperate peacefully for a while. Will I be able to walk again in the future? Old Zhao asked with hope. Walking shouldn't be a problem, but as for how much you'll recover, that depends on how you rest, the elder doctor replied. As long as I can walk, that's good enough. Old Zhao's heart relaxed a bit. He was genuinely afraid that he would become paralyzed. Where's my dad? Where is he? Just as old Zhao breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly, a commotion arose from outside in the courtyard, followed by a group of people rushing in. Leading them were two young men, a woman, and an elderly woman. Others, too, were villagers who had heard the news and come. Dad, the older of the young men, seeing old Zhao lying there, rushed over. I heard Dashin shouting that you had fallen into the water and were being brought here to the elder doctor. What in the world happened? It turned out that when Dylan and others were bringing old Zhao over, they also sent someone to old Zhao's home to notify his family. I'm fine now, old Zhao said to his son with a guilty conscience. What do you mean fine? A villager bluntly exposed his lie. Ming, your dad went fishing alone, jumped into the river himself, and nearly drowned. Then he recounted the entire incident thoroughly. As soon as the villager finished speaking, the elderly woman, old Zhao's wife, burst into tears and scolding. You good for nothing. I told you not to go fishing, but you insisted. You can't swim, so why go to the riverbank, let alone jump into the river? Do you wish to die and drag me along with you? Old Zhao's son, Zhao Ming, also looked uneasy. But as his son, he didn't feel it was his place to scold his father. He could only advise, Dad, let's not go fishing anymore, okay? We don't lack that bit of fish at home, so why insist on doing it? His second son also said, Yeah, Dad, in the future, just tell us whatever you want to eat. No matter how much trouble it is, I'll get it for you. Just don't do such dangerous things again. I won't go anymore. I won't go at all in the future. Old Zhao, red-faced from his wife's and son's admonishing, could only agree. Don't worry, Ming. Even if your dad wanted to go fishing again, he can't now. Another villager chimed in. Old Dr. Chen said that your dad got a severe soaking this time, and it's left him with ailments. If he doesn't rest and recover properly, he might even find walking difficult in the future. What? The Zhao family was immediately shocked. In the end, old Zhao was carried away by his two sons amid his wife's scolding. Old Dr. Chen had given him an acupuncture treatment and prescribed some medicine, and old Zhao's complexion had already improved a lot when he left. Once old Zhao's family left, the villagers, having nothing exciting left to see and not daring to disturb old Dr. Chen further, began to disperse. Are you leaving, Qing? Brother Dun said to Lu Qing. Lu Qing, why are you here? And little Yin too. It was then that the other villagers noticed Lu Qing and little Yin standing in a corner. I've been here the whole time. It's just that everyone was concerned about Uncle Zhao's health and didn't notice me, Lu Qing said with a smile. Brother Dutton, you guys go ahead. I still have some things I want to ask Grandpa Chen. Ask for advice? It was only then that Brother Dutton noticed the book in Lu Qing's hand, suddenly realizing, You're here learning from old Dr. Chen? Yes, I'm learning a bit about herbal medicine from Grandpa Chen, Lu Qing didn't deny. At this remark, the villagers were all astonished. Could it be that Lu Qing was so highly regarded by the elder doctor? After their surprise, what followed was envy. The elder doctor's medical skills were well known. He could even save those on the brink of death. Many had seen the state Lu Qing was in when he was ill, but ultimately it was the elder doctor's prescription that had cured him. Earlier, when old Zhao fell into the water, they said his complexion was ashen and he was breathless. Then, with just a few manipulations by the elder doctor, the man was revived. To say his medical skills could bring the dying back to life was no exaggeration. Now that Lu Qing had the opportunity to learn medicine from the elder doctor, how could they not be envious? But though they envied him, the villagers knew that such things could not be envied into existence. Learning medical skills was clearly not easy, and one had to be extremely intelligent. Otherwise, one wouldn't even manage to start. See how Lu Qing was holding a book? All the characters known by everyone in the village combined probably wouldn't fill a basket. Only Lu Qing, who had been taught by his grandfather from a young age, could recognize some characters. Perhaps this was also why old Dr. Chun valued Lu Qing. Thinking this, the envy in many villagers' hearts lessened somewhat, because they knew that even if such good fortune fell on them, they wouldn't have the capability to seize it. An elderly villager stepped forward and patted Lu Qing on the shoulder. Good for you, Lu Qing. You must learn well from the elder doctor and try to master all his skills. The sudden encouragement left Lu Qing a bit bewildered. He wanted to say that he was really only learning a bit about herbal medicine from old Dr. Chen, but seeing the earnest look in the old man's eyes, he could only nod. I will try my best. Even after the villagers had left, Lu Qing still felt somewhat perplexed. He had thought that everyone would be envious and jealous to see him studying medicine with the elder doctor, but he had just seen it. There was envy among the villagers, and jealousy too, but it wasn't as intense as he had imagined. Instead, beyond the envy and jealousy, it seemed they genuinely hoped he could indeed master the elder doctor's medical skills. Lu Qing did not like to...
I will be right back.
to assume the worst about others. But he also knew that the human heart is unpredictable, and sometimes jealousy comes without any obvious reason. Do you feel puzzled? Old Dr. Chen came up beside Lu Qing. What? Lu Qing asked, not understanding. Don't you understand why the people in the village hope so much that you can learn my medical skills? Old Dr. Chen said with a smile. Lu Qing nodded. He didn't quite understand. Did the elder doctor know the reason? Lu Qing, do you know how many doctors there were in this village and the nearby villages when I settled here? The elder doctor didn't directly answer Lu Qing's question but asked instead. Lu Qing shook his head. When the elder doctor came to the village, the original host was young and didn't have many memories of this. Not even one. The elder doctor gave an answer that surprised Lu Qing. Before I came to this village, none of the nearby villages had a single doctor. When villagers fell ill with minor illnesses, they would generally pick some herbs they recognized and boil them to drink, or they would go to the midwife or witch for some medicine. The rest depended largely on enduring the illness. Only when they couldn't bear it anymore would they go to the city to seek medical help. But the serious illnesses in this world mostly evolved from minor ones. By the time they couldn't endure anymore and went to the city to seek medical help, it was often already a serious illness. Serious illnesses are difficult to treat, even for city doctors who aren't sure they could cure all illnesses. Moreover, living in the city is not easy, let alone seeking medical help. Even if city doctors were confident in their treatment, the excessive medical fees were not something ordinary villagers could afford. Therefore, for ordinary villagers, a serious illness often meant that their life was soon to end. Before I came to the village, the number of people who died from illnesses every year in your nearby villages was far from small. Lu Qing recalled, and indeed, there seemed to be funerals every year in the village before the elder doctor's arrival. When I traveled here years ago and saw many people in nearby villages suffering from diseases without recourse to medical help, I couldn't bear it and decided to stay, hoping to give these villagers a chance at life. Little did I expect that this stay would last for 10 years. In these 10 years, I can't say I've saved countless people, but at least I provided a place for the villagers to seek medical help when they fell ill, preventing minor illnesses from turning into serious ones. Lu Qing felt deeply moved. Following what the elder doctor had said, for these 10 years, he really had been a living bodhisattva, ensuring safety for the area. So everyone hoped that I could learn medicine from him, so I could also treat and heal people in the future? Lu Qing asked. Yes, probably everyone is tired of the days when there was no access to medical help, the elder doctor nodded. But isn't Grandpa Chen still here? But I'm already very old, the elder doctor said. Although I rarely mingle in the village, I still occasionally hear private discussions about what they would do if I suddenly died one day, where they would go for medical treatment. Lu Qing. He thought of the elder doctor's identity as a cultivator. Those critical villagers surely would not have expected an old man to have such keen hearing. Now Lu Qing fully understood why everyone, despite being envious and jealous when they saw him learning medicine from the elder doctor, still reminded him to study hard. It turned out that everyone was scared of returning to the days without a doctor, afraid that if one day the elder doctor was no longer around, they would return to how things were before. Grandpa Chen, does that make you angry? Lu Qing asked. What I have to be angry about? Elder Dr. Chen chuckled. It's just human nature, and besides, I really am very old, almost 1 foot in the grave. But I see you're still in very good health. Lu Qing thought to himself. He remembered the red light that he had seen emanating from the elder doctor. Lu Qing, you are a smart boy. You should understand now what everyone meant earlier, right? I understand a little, Lu Qing nodded. Then, would you like to learn medicine from me? The elder doctor suddenly asked. What? Lu Qing looked at the elder doctor in surprise, somewhat doubting if he had misheard just now. Grandpa Chen, did you just say that you want me to study medicine with you? How so? Are you not willing? The elder doctor asked. No, it's just that you said before you only wanted me to follow you and learn some herbal knowledge, didn't you? I've changed my mind. Mr. Wang's words earlier reminded me that the village will indeed need a doctor in the future. Since you're the only person in the village who can read, perhaps I should give you this opportunity. Mr. Wang was the elder who had earlier patted Lu Qing on the shoulder, urging him to follow old Dr. Chen and study medicine diligently. Lu Qing was stunned. He had thought it would be a long time before he'd have the opportunity to study medicine. Unexpectedly, the situation had changed so quickly. A look of joy crossed his face, and he was about to give thanks when old Dr. Chen continued. However, don't be too pleased with yourself just yet. The path to learning medicine requires talent. If you don't have the talent, even if I'm willing to teach, you might not be able to learn. What counts as having talent? Asked Lu Qing. 1 month, the elder doctor replied. As long as you can memorize all the names and properties of the herbs recorded in the 100 Herbs scripture in your hands within a month, I will formally take you on as an apprentice. If you can't do it, then you might as well honestly learn some herbal knowledge and make a living as an herb gatherer. Grandpa Chen, I will definitely try hard to memorize the entire 100 Herbs scripture. Lu Qing said excitedly. It was just memorizing the 100 Herbs scripture, something he could do right now. However, Lu Qing knew that if he really recited the entire 100 Herbs scripture in front of the Elder Doctor now, what awaited him might not be the Elder Doctor's surprise, but fear instead. So he couldn't rush this matter. He needed to give the Elder Doctor time to accept it. After all, he had previously told people that he could only recognize some characters, not that he was extensively read. Following that, Lu Qing took the 100 Herbs scripture and started asking old Dr. Chen about some questions in it, mainly about some rare characters and the pronunciation of the names of medicinal materials. Though superpower had helped him memorize the entire 100 Herbs scripture, there were some meanings of words that he wanted to understand more deeply. It was also a good opportunity to confirm whether they were different from his understanding. To this, the Elder Doctor naturally had all the answers, explaining in detail to Lu Qing. And it was during this process of explanation that old Dr. Chen was amazed to discover Lu Qing's excellent memory. Many words, after just explaining them once or twice, he could basically remember and didn't require further elaboration. Lu Qing, you truly are a very smart child, the Elder Doctor said with great satisfaction. Lu Qing's performance greatly exceeded his expectations. At this rate, perhaps he really could memorize the entire 100 Herb scripture within a month. It's because Grandpa Chen teaches so well, Lu Qing said modestly. At the same time, he also breathed a sigh of relief internally. This was the first time he felt pretending to be confused could also be tiring. Even though he already understood many things, he still needed to ask several times and couldn't let the Elder Doctor notice any loopholes. It was a great test of his acting skills. Alright, let's stop here for today. Learning characters shouldn't be done too much at once. Otherwise, it's easy to get them mixed up. Take the 100 Herbs scripture back with you, have a good look at it tonight, and come back up tomorrow. I'll test your progress then. Grandpa Chun, don't I need to wait until the next acupuncture session to come back? Lu Qing asked in surprise. Now that you're going to study the 100 Herbs scripture, why wait so long? If more than 3 days pass, I'm afraid you'll have forgotten what you learned today, the Elder Doctor said with a laugh and a scolding tone. Then we'll come back up tomorrow to see you. Elder, Lu Qing said joyfully. Grandpa Chen, does that mean Little Yin can still come up to play with you tomorrow? Little Yin also said happily. Of course, I'll make you some new pastries tomorrow for you to try. The Elder Doctor picked up the little tyke. Little Yan's eyes lit up. New pastries? Will they be as delicious as the yam cake? They won't be any worse than the yam cakes. The little tyke suddenly felt like she was about to drool. After leaving the half-mountain small courtyard with Little Yin, Lu Qing's heart was still joyous. His gains for the day were still enormous. The red moon carp he had intended to give to Elder Dr. Chen turned out to be such a precious strange fish. After Elder Dr. Chen sells the red moon carp, even after deducting the stew medicine fee he owed to the Elder Doctor, there should still be some silver tail left. It just so happens that he is very poor right now, and with the silver tail, many urgent matters can be resolved. What's more important is that he learned about the red moon carp's habit of enjoying blood apricots. If that river outside the village could yield one red moon carp, there surely must be others. As long as he is patient, maybe he can catch another. When that time comes, it will be another fortune. Besides the red moon carp, the biggest gain was the opportunity bestowed by old Dr. Chen. Next, as long as he proceeds step by step, thoroughly studies the 100 Herbs scripture, and gains the Elder Doctor's approval, he will truly obtain the opportunity to learn medical skills. Lu Qing believes that with his superpower and diligent study, he will definitely master medical skill. Moreover, the sudden discovery of this function today also made Lu Qing realize his superpower is even more powerful than he imagined, with many more functions still waiting for him to uncover. With an excited heart, the siblings walked toward their home. Meanwhile, the events that occurred today at the Elder Doctor's house had already spread throughout the entire village. Especially the fact that Lu Qing was learning medical skills from Dr. Chen was drawing the attention of almost all the villagers. Under the large tree in the center of the village, a group of villagers was discussing. Do you guys think Lu Qing is really learning medical skill from old Dr. Chen? A villager asked in surprise. Of course, it's true. Everyone saw it with their own eyes. Lu Qing was reciting from a medical book right there. Another villager responded. Yes, and when we asked Lu Qing, the Elder Doctor didn't deny it. Isn't that the truth? Another villager added. Does that mean our village will have a doctor of its own in the future? An old man said excitedly. It's too early to say. Lu Qing is just learning from the Elder Doctor for now. It's hard to say when he will be ready to treat patients. No matter what, it's a hope at least. If there's no doctor in the village, we'd have to go back to the way things were before. Hearing this, the villagers fell silent. Yes, before the elder doctor arrived, when they had any kind of ailments that could only endure on their own. Some minor ailments might get better after enduring, but the fear was that enduring might lead to bigger problems. In the past, quite a few people in the village had passed away like this. After old Dr. Chen arrived, life became better. No matter the illness, the elder doctor could treat it in some way. Even if he couldn't cure it right away, he could relieve the pain, making it less unbearable for the patient. What's most crucial is that the elder doctor's fees for treating were not expensive. Even if someone couldn't pay the fee temporarily, he still helped out and allowed it to be owed. Where else could you find such a good doctor? Therefore, everyone truly respected old Dr. Chen from the bottom of their hearts. But everyone also knew that the elder doctor was getting on in years. Hence, sometimes they couldn't help but think, what would they do if one day the elder doctor was no longer there? No one wanted to return to those days when they were sick but had no doctor to see. Now, hearing that Lu Qing was studying medical skill from the elder doctor, people genuinely felt happy. Just as everyone was chatting under the tree, suddenly, no one knew who shouted out, "Lu Qing is back!" When Lu Qing brought little Yin back to the village and saw the residents gathered under the large tree chatting, he was greeted with smiling faces. "Qing and little Yin are back?" One of the villagers said cheerfully. "Yes, we just came back from Grandpa Chen's place." Lu Qing nodded, slightly puzzled. "What are you all doing here? Did something happen?" "Not at all." The villagers shook their heads repeatedly. "Qing, you are learning from Elder Dr. Chen. You must study hard and diligently." An elderly person then said, "Yes, if you have any difficulties, just talk to us. We're all from the same village. No need to be so formal. It's rare that Elder Dr. Chen is willing to teach you medical skills. You must grasp the opportunity well." Other villagers also chimed in. Looking at the concerned expressions on the villagers' faces, Lu Qing felt somewhat dazed. He remembered what the elder doctor had told him before he had descended the mountain. "Lu Qing, do you know why I chose to settle in your village among the nearby villages?" Lu Qing does not know. "It's because I really like the local customs of your village. I've wandered around for decades, traveling north and south, having seen and lived in countless villages, if not 1,000, then 800. Among these villages, some are wealthy, some are poor, some are righteous, some are xenophobic, all kinds. But the local customs of your village are rarely so simple, uniting and helping each other, neighbors living harmoniously, supporting one another. Although villagers here occasionally quarrel, they don't hold grudges, and when someone is in need, help is still provided. Such a harmonious village is rare, even in the extensive travels of my life. When I first came to your village, it was this simplicity that attracted me, and ultimately, I decided to settle here." After listening to the elder doctor's words, Lu Qing had thought deeply at that moment. Indeed, even he could feel that the villagers were very simple. Otherwise, in a village with a slightly worse atmosphere, he and little Yin would probably have been treated coldly and even bullied. Where else would they still be able to live peacefully in their own home? "Grandpa Chen, you just mentioned that the villages outside seem different from ours." Lu Qing had asked then. "Very different. Other villages, even if harmonious, do not support each other or have the spirit of righteousness like your village. Why is our village different from others?" "Well, I'm not very clear on that. Perhaps you can ask some of the older villagers later." Reflecting on the conversation with the elder doctor and looking at the villagers with eager concern, Lu Qing suddenly smiled and nodded seriously. "Don't worry, everyone. I will definitely study medical skills diligently with Grandpa Chen." After saying goodbye to the villagers, Lu Qing held little Yan's hand and walked home, feeling very cheerful. He felt somewhat fortunate. Luckily, he had been reborn in today's village. If he had been reborn in those villages with poor customs that the elder doctor spoke of, he would have faced a bunch of troubles. Now, although life was a bit tough, there weren't so many frustrations. Moreover, as he became more familiar with this world, he believed that, even if life was tough, it would continue to get better for him. After returning home, Lu Qing let little Yin go play, and he took out the 100 Herb scripture and continued to read. Knowing the value of the red moon carp, he was no longer in such a hurry to find ways to make money. Once Elder Dr. Chen helped sell the red moon carp, he would have a sum of silver incoming, enough for him and little Yin to live on for a while. Now, what he valued most was the test from the elder doctor. As long as he passed the test, he would officially follow the elder doctor to learn medicine, and he must seize this opportunity. Therefore, even with the help of his superpower, he had already memorized the entire 100 herb scripture. Lu Qing still did not relax, continuing to study the content diligently. Time slowly elapsed while Lu Qing read. In the meantime, some villagers came over, wanting to ask about fishing. After all, the 2 big fish he had caught yesterday were quite shocking to everyone. Some people wanted to come over and learn from his experience. However, seeing Lu Qing reading in the courtyard, they didn't dare to disturb him and quietly left. For dinner, Lu Qing still made fish, adding a bunch of wild vegetables picked from the yard. After dinner, as the sky darkened, Lu Qing read for a while longer until it was completely dark. The household couldn't afford to light an oil lamp now, so as soon as it darkened, he put away the book. Yet, after an afternoon of revision, his familiarity with the 100 herb scripture had further improved. Except for some words he still didn't fully understand, there were almost no doubts left. After all, the 100 herb scripture was only a book introducing herbal medicine, belonging to a kind of popular science medical book and did not delve into medical theory, so it was not difficult to understand. Not to mention, Lu Qing had the help of his superpower. He believed that even if Elderchin wanted to test him right now, he would be able to pass completely. After putting the book away, Lu Qing prepared to coax little Yin to sleep. This other world was not like the brightly lit world of his former life, where night life began in the early morning. Here, staying up until 10 o'clock at night was already considered staying up late. Usually, everyone went to bed around 8 or 9 o'clock after dark. Brother, little Yin is not sleepy yet. The little one was lying in bed, covered with a small quilt. Moonlight shone through the window onto the bed, illuminating the child's round eyes perfectly. Little Yin, be good and sleep early. Tomorrow we need to go to Grandpa Chen's place, Lu Qing coaxed. But little Yin can't sleep. The little one acted stubbornly. What should we do then? Lu Qing was somewhat at a loss. Brother, tell me a story. I want to hear about that little monkey from last time. The little one revealed her true intention. All right, Lu Qing sighed. Where did we leave off last time? He was somewhat regretful. The last 2 nights, after little Yin woke up crying in the middle of the night, no matter how he tried to soothe her, she wouldn't stop. In the end, he could only tell her a story, and unexpectedly the little one instantly got hooked. Last time, we left off where the little monkey wanted to become the king. Little Yin remembered quite clearly. Okay, so that day, as the monkeys were frolicking in the mountain stream, they stumbled upon a Xian cave. Indeed, the story Lu Qing was telling was that of the great sage equaling heaven. However, he hadn't read the original work in his previous life, and his memory of the specific details of the story was quite vague. He could only rely on his impressions to improvise and organize the language. Luckily, the story of the Monkey King was endlessly fascinating for children. Even though he skimmed over a lot of details, little Yin still listened with great interest. But ultimately, she was just a child who fell asleep quickly, influenced by the calming and soul-stabilizing effects of the green armor fish stone. Little Yin couldn't stay awake to hear the little monkey officially become king, as her eyelids battled, and she fell into a deep sleep. Lu Qing gently covered her with the quilt, preparing to return to his own bed. Suddenly, he heard a noise coming from outside. The sudden noise startled Lu Qing at first, and then made him somewhat cautious. What was that sound? Human, beast, or rat? He thought of the mysterious little beast that had stolen 2 large chunks of fish meat the night before. Could it be that the critter had come back? But he had already brought the fish meat inside his house. Surely this creature wouldn't have the audacity to barge in, would it? Recalling the information he had gathered with his superpower that morning, the mysterious little beast seemed to have sharp claws. Lu Qing couldn't help but tighten his grip on a stick that was by the bedside. At this moment, he missed the electricity of his previous life immensely. If this were a house from his previous life, no matter what kind of beast it was, simply turning on a light would likely scare it away. Unfortunately, he could hardly afford to light an oil lamp at the moment, let alone use bright lights to scare off wild animals. The noise outside persisted, sounding like something scratching at the door. Despite Lu Qing's usual courage, his heart felt a bit fuzzy at that moment. He gripped the stick tightly and quietly stepped out of the room, entering the hall. Suddenly, the stick struck the door with a loud. The noise outside immediately ceased. Lu Qing stood in the hall holding the stick, forcing himself to stay calm. It was a long time before he heard that noise again, but he dared not open the door to rashly check. After a long while, when he was certain there was no more movement outside, Lu Qing finally returned to his room. There was no denying the sedative and calming effects of the green armor fish stone were quite good. Even such a loud noise hadn't woken little Yin. Otherwise, Lu Qing would have had to spend a long time comforting her. That night, however, Lu Qing did not sleep well. Fearing that the creature might return, he hardly slept at all, only dozing off a little as dawn approached. As a result, when he arrived at old Dr. Chen's place the next day, Lu Qing was sporting 2 large dark circles under his eyes and looked utterly listless. Seeing him like this, the elder doctor immediately furrowed his brows. Lu Qing, I know you want to master the 100 herb scripture as soon as possible, but learning is about balancing work and rest. Sometimes, burying yourself in your studies can be counterproductive. Besides, if you wish to become a doctor, you must take good care of your own body. If you can't even look after yourself, how can you maintain a clear mind to treat and heal others? The elder doctor mistakenly thought Lu Qing's haggard appearance was from staying up the previous night reading. Grandpa Chen, it's not what you think, Lu Qing said with a wry smile. I didn't sleep well last night for another reason. He then told of the previous night's events. So you're saying there was a wild beast trying to get into your house last night, and that's why you didn't sleep well? The elder doctor exclaimed in surprise. Yes, because I was worried it might sneak in and harm little Yin. I didn't dare to sleep. Lu Qing rubbed his eyes and said, Brother, how come little Yin didn't know anything about it? The little tyke had been completely unaware of the previous night's events, and her eyes suddenly widened. You slept like a little pig last night, so of course, you wouldn't know. Lu Qing reached out to tap her little nose. But this is no solution. You can't stay up every night on guard. The elder doctor thought for a moment, then turned and went back into his house. Not long after, he came out with a package and handed it to Lu Qing. Take this herbal powder. Master Chen, what is this? Lu Qing asked, holding the item. This is a medicinal powder that I've blended myself. It contains a variety of herbs that repel insects and beasts. When I walk through the mountains, I usually use it for protection. From what you've said, the wild beast shouldn't be too large. Once you return, scatter the powder around your house. The beast will surely be wary and it won't come to bother you again. Upon hearing this, Lu Qing was overjoyed. Thank you, Grandpa Chen. Elder Doctor's medicinal powder really came at the right time. Otherwise, Lu Qing would have considered setting traps to catch that mysterious little beast. However, some information previously obtained through his superpower made him hesitate to act rashly. After all, the mere footprints of that mysterious little beast were already at a white light level. Who knows how formidable it could be as the creature itself. Upon storing the medicinal powder, Lu Qing took out the 100 herb scripture and continued to seek Elder Doctor's guidance. This time, old Dr. Chen was even more surprised. He found that Lu Qing was learning the 100 herb scripture very quickly. Not only had he completely remembered what was taught yesterday, he had also reviewed the remaining content, managing to infer other principles from one fact. At this rate, it wouldn't take long for him to master the entire book. Very good. I can see that you really did put in the effort after going back yesterday, said the elder doctor, stroking his beard and nodding with satisfaction. I dare not forget the advice Grandpa Chen gave me, responded Lu Qing respectfully. Well, let's stop here for today. You have gradually become familiar with the 100 herb scripture, but just being familiar with a medical book is not enough, said Elder Doctor. Whether as a doctor or herb gatherer, one must be able to identify and select real medicinal herbs. I remember that there are some common medicinal herbs growing near the village. On a regular basis, you should observe them more, comparing them to what's in the 100 herb scripture to see if the actual herbs match the descriptions in the book, instructed the elder doctor. Yes, I've noted that down, replied Lu Qing. Oh, and tomorrow, you and little Yin won't need to come up here. I'll be heading into the city and we'll take the opportunity to sell that red moon carp for you. You can stay home and review the material, the elder doctor added. Grandpa Chen, are you going into the city? Lu Qing asked excitedly. Indeed. A drugstore in the city has ordered some medicinal materials from me, which I need to deliver, explained the elder doctor. Why, is there something you need me to buy for you? With the sale of the red moon carp, you will have a tidy sum of money. Yes, replied Lu Qing immediately. He indeed had items he wished Elder Doctor could help him buy. Oh, what would you like to buy? I want to buy a cast iron pot, said Lu Qing. Grandpa Chen, you know that our family encountered a misfortune recently, and I sold many of our things. The only cast iron pot we had was also sold, so I want to get a new one. A cast iron pot. That's doable, The elder doctor pondered for a moment and then agreed. Anything else? Also, we're almost out of salt at home, and I'd like to stock up on some more. Do you need to buy anything else? No, let's just buy these 2 items for now. Luqing shook his head. In truth, there were many things he wanted to buy. Oil, grain, clothes, shoes, and more. He wanted to purchase many items, but he knew that there was a limit to everything. The elder doctor was his senior, and his willingness to help carry items was already quite rare. It would be inappropriate to ask for too much, to be overstepping and lacking propriety. If it wasn't for the fact that cast iron pots and salt could only be bought in the city, he wouldn't have bothered elder doctor even for these 2 things. As for the rest, he could buy them himself at the market fair sometime later. Upon returning from old Dr. Chen's place, Luqing immediately sprinkled the medicinal powder around the perimeter of the house. He thought that would put an end to all troubles, and he could finally have a good night's sleep. However, after night fell and little Yin fell asleep, he once again heard that sound. When Luqing heard the familiar scratching at the door, he could hardly believe his ears. Old Dr. Chen hadn't said that his medicinal powder was very effective, that even a jackal, upon smelling it, would still keep its distance? Why was this creature still coming? Luqing felt somewhat overwhelmed. Was he to get no sleep tonight again? This couldn't go on. If he didn't resolve this matter, he feared he wouldn't sleep well in future. Having had poor sleep for 2 consecutive nights, Luqing's temper was also becoming a little explosive. He wanted to see just what it was that dared to be so bold. Creeping stealthily to the door with a stick from beside his bed, he suddenly flung the latch and threw the door open. This sudden action clearly startled whatever was outside, too. A dark shadow instantly darted out into the courtyard. Ever since awakening his superpower, Luqing's eyes had undergone some subtle changes that were not easy to notice. Firstly, his vision had improved immensely, allowing him to see things clearly even from a great distance. Secondly, his sensitivity to light sources had sharpened. Though he couldn't yet see in complete darkness, as long as there was a bit of light, he could make things out with considerable clarity. Now, with the help of the rather bright moonlight overhead, Luqing could clearly see what had been troubling him these 2 nights. It was a small black beast. About 2 feet in length, it resembled both a cat and a leopard, with 2 large eyes like light bulbs. At the moment, its fur was slightly bristly, its tail raised, limbs low and tense, puffing up its fur as it warily watched Luqing. Seeing the appearance of the black beast, Luqing let out a sigh of relief. It was lucky that the beast seemed small in stature and didn't appear very fierce. Besides, it could be the creature whose courage was not great enough to come back after he had slammed the door on it the previous night. For some reason, this time, the black beast didn't run away but kept crouching and watching Luqing. Luqing stood quietly confronting it, unwilling to rashly drive it away. He wanted to use his superpower to ascertain information about the little beast before making a decision. Luqing tried to stay calm, his gaze on the little beast. However, his eyes soon widened in shock. A faint red light emerged from the mysterious little beast. Black Knight Spirit Fox. Young, female mountain spiritual beast. Extremely fast, with razor-sharp claws that can shatter stones and split metal. Rumors say the Black Knight Spirit Fox is fond of fish, but has a natural aversion to water, able only to yearn from afar. A red light level beast? Luqing almost jumped in surprise. The superpower radiating from this mysterious beast had already reached the red light level. Wasn't that the same level as old Dr. Chen? No wonder the medicinal powder had been ineffective. Taking several deep breaths, Luqing struggled to compose himself. A sense of relief suddenly surged in his heart. It was fortunate he hadn't acted rashly just now. Who would have thought that this little thing was a red light level spiritual beast? And what were the floating words saying? Extremely fast. Claws that could shatter stones and split metal. Such exaggerated lethality. Even tigers and leopards might not match up, right? Thankfully, this little beast was timid. Otherwise, he probably would already be lying on the ground. Quietly hiding the stick behind his back, Luqing put on an innocuous smile. "Little fellow, did you come here wanting to eat fish?" The little black beast was still watching Luqing cautiously, seemingly not understanding what he was saying. Luqing hadn't expected a wild animal to understand his words. He gently shifted his footsteps, trying not to startle the little black beast, and quickly took 2 pieces of dried fish from the kitchen. When Luqing appeared at the door holding the fish, he clearly saw the little black beast's eyes light up for a moment. Indeed, this guy was here for the fish. Luqing recalled the description in the 3rd note. He held the fish in front of him and shook it. "I'm sorry I scared you just now. These 2 pieces of fish are my apology." In the night, the little black beast's eyes, like light bulbs, followed the moving fish. Seeing this, Lu Qing felt certain. "Take it." He tossed the fish pieces into the yard, intentionally throwing them a bit farther from the beast to avoid startling it. The fish pieces landed on the ground, startling the little beast, which took a few steps back and kept a close eye on Lu Qing. Lu Qing didn't move, standing quietly. Feeling that Lu Qing had no intention to attack, the little black beast's tense fur relaxed a bit. It glanced at the fish on the ground, sniffed a few times, then suddenly moved. Lu Qing only saw a blur as the little beast dashed past. The next moment, the fish on the ground had disappeared. Shortly afterward, the little beast's figure also jumped over the fence and rapidly vanished into the night fog. After waiting quietly for a while and confirming that the little beast had gone, Lu Qing finally closed the door and returned to his room. Once he lay in bed, Lu Qing's heart could no longer be controlled. It began to pound violently. There was no helping it. The situation had indeed been somewhat perilous. Although the black little beast seemed rather timid, who knew if it would attack people when provoked? As the saying goes, even a rabbit will bite when cornered. And that was no rabbit, but a spiritual beast with powerful attacking capabilities. Its claws were sharp enough to break stone and split metal. If they could tear through stone and metal, what chance did flesh and blood stand? Therefore, Lu Qing really dared not provoke it. Fortunately, this black little beast was not only timid but also showed no signs of aggressiveness. Otherwise, whether Lu Qing could have survived just now was debatable. What kind of fearsome beast is this, and how have I never heard people in the village mention it? As he calmed down, Lu Qing harbored a doubt. He then recalled the description superpower had detected. That little beast seemed to be still a juvenile. Could its parents be nearby? They probably weren't. If its parents were around, they likely would have already arrived in a group. Lu Qing hadn't forgotten that the note also mentioned that the Black Knight spirit fox particularly enjoyed eating fish. Had it migrated from another place, been driven away by its parents, or had some accident befallen them? Lu Qing made several guesses, but got nowhere. However, he had a premonition that after tonight, this black little beast would likely visit him again. He had no basis for it. It was just a feeling. It seems I can't give up fishing after all. Lu Qing thought somewhat helplessly. He had originally planned to put fishing on hold and devote himself fully to studying medical skill. After all, once Elder Dr. Chen sold the Red Moon carp, he would have a sizable amount of money, enough to ensure a worry-free life for him and little Yin for quite some time. But now, with this black little beast depending on him, he had no choice but to change his plans. That was a red light level spiritual beast, not one he could afford to provoke. He could only prioritize appeasing it for now. What kind of situation is this? Lu Qing couldn't help but lament. That night, Lu Qing finally had a good sleep. The next morning, after breakfast, he took little Yin to fish by the river. This time, he noticed there were far fewer people at the riverside. The earlier bustling scene where 7 or 8 people jostled for a fishing spot was gone. It made sense lately. It was the busy farming season. There was still much work to be done in the fields, and not everyone truly had the leisure to fish every day. After all, fishing was just a pastime. It might occasionally improve the diet, but it was the crops from the fields that were vital, the lifeline of the farmers. This time, Lu Qing did not go to the miracle fish fishing spot. With strange fish, it's fine if you catch them once in a while. It would raise suspicions if you caught several every few days. Any fool would realize something was amiss. Moreover, even if he caught any strange fish now, he had nowhere to sell them. He couldn't always expect old Dr. Chen to help sell them. As for eating them, he was too reluctant. Ever since learning of the strange fish's value, Lu Qing had planned to treat them as an important source of income. So he decided to fish for strange fish either periodically or when he was more capable of protecting himself. Lu Qing chose another bright fishing spot he discovered the first time he came to the riverside. After repairing the fishing spot a bit, Lu Qing started casting his line. This fishing session was uneventful compared to the previous 2. Within an hour, he had nearly half a bucket of fish. The fish varied in size, the biggest being a grass carp weighing 2 or 3 pounds, and the smallest still being those little white ones. After catching nearly half a bucket full of fish, Lu Qing began to pack up. These fish should be enough to feed the Black Knight spirit fox for several nights. After returning home with the fish, Lu Qing waited for little Yin to fall asleep that evening, and sure enough, He heard the familiar scratching at the door. This time he was not panicked. He took out the fish he had prepared earlier from the kitchen and calmly opened the door of the house. As the door opened, there stood the little black beast in the middle of the courtyard. However, its mood was visibly much more stable than before. Although still wary in its eyes, it did not bristle all over like it did the previous night. "I've been expecting you," Lu Qing said with a smile, making his aura as calm and friendly as possible. Then he brought out a wooden basin filled with fish from behind him, slowly walking towards the courtyard. The little black beast saw him coming and quickly backed away a few steps, letting out a slight warning sound. Lu Qing immediately stopped. "Don't be nervous. I mean no harm." He gently placed the wooden basin on the ground and slowly retreated. Only after he went back into the house did the little beast calm down. Sniffing a few times, it swiftly darted to the basin. In the next moment, it had already disappeared with the biggest fish, vanishing to someplace to eat. Lu Qing wasn't surprised. He quietly waited inside the doorway. As expected, after a while, the little beast reappeared in the courtyard, took another fish, and disappeared once again. The little thing was quite cautious. Lu Qing laughed to himself, with no interest in watching a wild animal eat. There were plenty of little fish in the bucket, and with the little beast running to and fro to feed, there was no telling how long it would take. He didn't want to wait around. Lu Qing closed the door and returned to his room, his heart completely at ease. This matter was now perfectly concluded. Although it cost some fish, it wasn't much for him, who loved to fish. Every time he went fishing, he caught more than he could eat in one sitting. Having the Black Knight Spirit Fox help consume the surplus was not a bad thing. It was like the old rural life, when leftover scraps at home were eaten by cats and dogs. With a relaxed mindset, Lu Qing slept quite well that night. The next morning, he went out to the courtyard and saw the wooden basin was completely empty. The little beast had eaten all the fish, even the ones over 2 pounds. It had quite the appetite. After cleaning and putting away the basin, Lu Qing started to prepare breakfast. After finishing a meal with Little Yin, Lu Qing decided to visit old Dr. Chen. He took more than a pound of freshly slaughtered small fish with him and set out with Little Yin. Last time, the elder doctor had mentioned he liked eating small fish, and since Lu Qing had caught quite a few yesterday, he brought some along. Walking up the mountain path, Lu Qing's face showed a hint of anticipation. Elder Chen had gone into town yesterday to help him sell the red moon carp, and Lu Qing was uncertain about the outcome. Although Master Chen had said that the red moon carp was a priceless and precious strange fish that was easy to sell, Lu Qing felt somewhat uneasy until he actually saw the silvertails. Upon arriving at Half Mountain's small courtyard, Lu Qing saw that old Dr. Chen had just finished his morning exercises. "Grandpa Chen." Little Yin ran up to him. "Little Yin, it's been a day. Did you miss Grandpa?" The elder doctor picked up the little girl. "I did," Little Yin sweetly replied. "Ha ha ha ha. Hello, Grandpa Chen." Lu Qing also stepped forward to greet him. You look well today. So, that beast hasn't been bothering you again, has it?" In the elder doctor's view, his herbal powder was always effective. No matter what kind of wild beast it was, it should keep its distance upon smelling it. He gave Lu Qing such a big bag that even tigers and leopards would think twice before coming near. He assumed a mere unknown beast wouldn't be an exception. However, at this moment, Lu Qing seemed a bit embarrassed. "Grandpa Chen, the powder doesn't seem very effective. That beast has come to our house on the last 2 nights." "Oh, how can that be?" Old Dr. Chen was taken aback. "I don't know what's going on, but it seems like that creature isn't afraid of the powder," Lu Qing answered honestly. "How did you manage to drive it away, then?" Old Dr. Chen looked over Lu Qing's complexion again, confident he hadn't misjudged and that Lu Qing didn't look like someone who had been up all night. "I didn't do anything special. I found out that the creature seemed to be coming for the fish, so I threw some fish to it, and after eating, it left." "Likes eating fish?" The elder doctor pondered for a moment. "What does the beast look like? Did you get a good look?" "It's a black little beast, about 2 feet in length, with a pitch-black body, but its paws and the area around its neck are white." "Grandpa Chen, do you know what kind of beast this is? A 2-foot-long black little beast?" The elder doctor thought for a while and shook his head. "I've traveled far and wide for many years, but have never seen a beast with this appearance." "Even you, Grandpa Chen, don't recognize it?" Lu Qing was somewhat surprised. "What are you talking about?" The elder doctor laughed. "This world is vast and boundless, and there are countless living creatures. I may have wandered for decades, but the places I've seen are but a fraction of this expansive world. Isn't it normal that there are creatures I don't recognize? Grandpa Chen has a point, Lu Qing nodded. He had hoped to get more information about the Black Knight spirit fox from the Elder Doctor, but it seemed that was not going to happen. However, based on what you said, that little beast seems to have a spiritual nature. Since it has no intention of attacking people and only comes seeking a meal, there's no need to think about driving it away, at least for now. The Elder Doctor, with his wide experience, knew that there were very special...
Okay, I am going to hop off for a bit. I hurt my shoulder earlier today, and it is really bothering me. So, I will be back on in a couple of hours. I probably won't be playing World of Warcraft. I'll probably be playing Final Fantasy 11 when I hop back on. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan for right now. I want to thank the couple of people, I can't remember their names. I want to thank the couple of people who stopped by and, you know, followed on the stream. You know, I really appreciate it. Thank you. I hope you guys, well, I wouldn't say enjoy because it was just me playing hardcore mode. At the very beginning, but you know, but thanks for stopping by. I hope you guys stop by on the next stream. I do stream daily. I stream every single day because right now I'm looking for work, and it's not going well. So yeah, I use that time to stream when I'm, you know, not looking. But yeah, I'm hoping to, you know, get some viewers to, you know, build up my views, build up my profile. I want to say profile, my channel. So I hope you guys will be, you know, I hope you guys will support me on that. Anyways, I'll see you guys in a bit.